Welcome to the December Citizen Involvement Council. I'd like to welcome everybody that's here. Sorry, I was taking a look around to see who actually was here. We meet once a month on the first Monday night here in the chambers to talk about what's going on in the city and help keep the citizens involved in the different land use and things that are going on in the city. I don't see that our secretary is here. Is somebody able to read and do roll call?
I can do the roll call if someone else wants. Do you want to ask for someone to take minutes?
Barbara, would you be willing to take minutes tonight? Okay. Katie, can you do the roll call?
Okay, the roll call. Tony. Linda.
Here.
Dennis.
Here.
Amy.
Here.
Kathy.
Present.
Tom.
Present.
Joyce.
Here.
Faith.
Here.
Rita.
Here.
Kurt. Bob.
Here.
Barbara.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Karen.
Here.
Bill has an excused absence for this evening. And then Gary.
Here.
Todd.
Here.
Brian. Okay.
Okay. Tonight we welcome Brandon Paxton. He is here to talk to us a little bit about Clackamas Fire District. So you want to come on up and...
All right. Well, good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? Perfect. Well, very good. Well, first off, thank you for the invitation. My name is Brandon Paxton. I'm the Public Information Officer for Clackamas Fire, and have, over the past couple years, attended the Chiefs Advisory Group, and unbeknownst to me, this group meets on Mondays. So I apologize that I haven't been here over the last couple years, but didn't quite know about it. So here we are, and thank you, Amy, for the invitation. I appreciate the invite. So my goal tonight is just to simply introduce myself and offer a handful of quick updates that are going on across the fire district. The first one I'll start with is the Operation Santa Parade is underway, and if you came from Hilltop on your way down here like I did, you may have gotten stopped in the traffic by the long list of fire engines and Santa Claus that's out there collecting canned food tonight. Those parades started on the 28th of November, and there are going to be 15 parades that will run through about the second week in December. All total, there'll be 15 community parades. And they're out there collecting food and unwrapped toys. It's been going on for 40 years in our community, and so we're very proud of that event, and so it's kind of a busy time of year for all the staff and volunteers. So we certainly appreciate everybody's support. Today, being December 1st, marked the day that 2 new firefighters started in their academy, and that's just an attrition hire. We had a couple of our firefighters retire, and so we've had these 2 folks that are coming on board, and they will be going through a 2-week academy and then be positioned out in our Damascus station on 10-hour days, kind of shadowing the crew that's out there and kind of getting that experience out in the field. So if you happen to be out there, you can look for those folks who started today. Our hands-only CPR program, this is the second year we've been running this program, a very successful program that we instituted. Our EMS officer started this last year, and we get out in the community groups, but predominantly it's taught at the junior high schools. Better? Predominantly it's taught at the junior high schools. And so we get out, we bring in these mannequins for the kids, we teach hands-only CPR, and the only way that they're going to pass this section of their health class is to go home and teach 3 other folks hands-only CPR. Our goal last year was 10,000 people, and we surpassed that only with the help of our partnership with those kids in the schools. So we're very proud of that program, and that's continuing this year. Certainly shooting for another 10,000, which is absolutely a huge number, and it's already proven to kind of be a very active, life-saving program here in our community. We recently updated our strategic business plan, and so we took 2 days to review that plan. And part of what came from that was we realized that our crews need to be getting out and interfacing more with the neighborhood associations that you all represent. So I've got a list that I'd like to make sure that I pass it around tonight and make sure I have everybody's contact information and the information is accurate and up to date, so that way we can get our crews out there just to stop by. If there's time on your agendas, just to have 10 minutes just to say hello, give a brief update, and meet all of our folks out there, that would be fantastic. So we'd like to start assigning them. Certainly understanding that calls come up and late night trainings and things like that, but our goal is to try and get out there and see everybody more. Let's see. Mount Pleasant Elementary, last week was the last week we ran a 2-week training program for active shooter You may have seen a bunch of our rigs up there training, along with the Oregon City Police. It was a partnership, and so we've kind of been on the leading edge of how we're going to adapt and handle these situations. Sadly, it's one of those things that we all have to address, we all have to train. Certainly isn't something that we want to do, but it is something we need to be ready to do and handle. So we are certainly on the front edge of being the industry standard for how we will address these issues with working in partnership with law enforcement. So really proud of our crews, and certainly with the partnership of Oregon City Police as well. That wraps up the update from Clackamas Fire. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Kathy?
Yes, I was wondering what are the ages of the students that are participating in this, and how low do you go in the age group to?
So we found through a little bit of field research, and we tested this about 2 years ago, the happy number seems to be between 7th and 8th grade, still engaged, still very respectful and willing to participate in the program. We also found it very handy that we hold their grade hostage and very close to our heart, and we won't release it until they bring us back their mannequins and 3 signatures. So we have found that kind of happy medium to be the 7th and 8th grade level. However, we do teach a few classes in the freshman year of high school.
Oh, well, I was wondering because I was thinking too that they were older.
Yeah, and the goal is that they'll see it, 1, perhaps 2 times, in that window of time.
Yeah, because they're out in the public a lot more, because hopefully 7th and 8th graders aren't running free around town all the time.
They are, and it, yeah.
Well, my kids are all grown.
Yeah, and we had a great success story with last year's program. It actually happened up here at the Fred Meyer in Oregon City. A student had gone home and refreshed CPR with her father, who worked at the Fred Meyers, and he actually witnessed a cardiac arrest and was able to get involved. And he, the student actually reached out to us and was so proud of herself and the program. So it was really kind of neat.
Well, I knew somebody that took that, and they had somebody, it was at a bank, and they froze when it happened. So
Yeah.
younger kids probably won't freeze as much as.
That's our goal, and the standards with CPR have changed. Within the last couple of years, it's now gone to hands only, and so they've kind of done the research and proven that really the mouth-to-mouth was the thing that people didn't necessarily, that was the defining factor that would say, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. So now it's even easier. It's hands-only CPR, and really it's pushed hard and fast on the chest. Is kind of
Well, actually, last year, my family, we did the Oregon Heart for the OHSU, and as we're doing it, a young man had a heart attack, and he couldn't have had more better people, but it all upset us because my niece was doing it for her father, her mother, and everybody in our family that died last year. But if you're going to do it, do that walk, because there was a cardiac surgeon and probably 20 people around that were our nurses, doctors, and everything, and all the other nurses and doctors went on because they had it handled and the guy lived, so it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference, how they do push,
Yeah.
which is really, you've got to be strong to do that.
Hard and fast, and we're asking people to just push about 2 inches down on an adult chest. So on my chest, to be compressing that about 2 inches, which is quite a lot. So just if you think you're pushing too hard, probably push harder.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, thanks,
Thank you.
Kathy.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yes, Brandon, I will contact you regarding whether there's someone at Station 17 that can come to one of our meetings and briefly discuss hands-on, because I think it's something we want to pursue in our neighborhood meetings.
Yeah.
Maybe not the next meeting, but sometime this coming year.
Of course.
Also, I would like to compliment you on using good foresight tonight. Come to our meeting instead of strolling around in the streets of Oregon City in a chilly night. That shows good sense on your part.
That's right. I saw them turn right and I turned left, so I'm happy to join you here tonight. So,
Todd, do you want to grab the mic? And
Sure. So maybe I'm not one of the people in the know, but I know last year we completely missed Operation Santa Claus, and I was surprised to hear it starting today. So where is this announced, and where do you find that information? Because I know a lot of people in our neighborhood missed it. They didn't get notification, and I was thinking if there's a way we can improve that so you get more people contributing.
yeah, absolutely. Of course, I appreciate that. A couple different ways. Certainly, we post it on our website every year, and we try to push that fact that it's on our website through Twitter and Facebook, are our two social media outlets that seem to work pretty well for us. The other thing is you have the option is to sign up for our digital Chiefs newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter that announces upcoming events, fire district updates, a lot of useful information. So it would probably be best to be registered for that.
Great, thank you.
And the signs.
And there are signs that are posted as well. Usually it's a day or two ahead of the incoming parade. We try and post those.
Okay. Karen?
And if you want to stay informed on what's going on with the fire department and frequently entertained, follow Brandon on Twitter. He's wonderful about posting tweets and quite a poet occasionally.
So it's interesting. You have 140 characters with Twitter to kind of get your message across. And so follow us. The Twitter handle is @ClackamusFire. And it's the best way to get a little bit of information, 140 characters. I often try to post pictures, put information about street closures regarding incidents, learning tips and lessons from people's other kind of mishaps and misfortunes. So we like to share that knowledge as best we can.
Okay. Barbara?
We had Operation Santa Claus last night in the Park Place neighborhood. And we had a sign for 2 days out in the curbway, like, sort of like a political sign that announced when it was going to be. So how do you get those signs if somebody wants them?
So the coordinators of the Operation Santa Claus, they're on staff with Clackamas Fire, and they go out in a truck and they place those signs generally 2 to 3 days prior to the parade coming through that part of the community.
I saw a couple in Gaffney today from Hilltop.
I was just saying I hadn't seen a single one, and they went just around the corner from my house, so I'm kind of
Seen at
surprised.
least 8 of them.
Yeah,
I guess I must be driving the wrong way.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, we oftentimes will do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday parade, and so if you get caught kind of in that Saturday or Sunday group, you may only get a day to kind of put the
They
sign
work
in place.
Friday, in most of our neighborhoods.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, so they're led by volunteers, and so they.
I'm so glad that Barbara mentioned that it was in the Park Place neighborhood last night, because I was looking out through the trees in my backyard, and there were all kinds of sirens, and I got outside, and there was bullhorns shouting, and I thought, what terrible thing is going on up there? And I even emailed a friend of mine that lives in that neighborhood, what did you do up there last night? So now I know, thank goodness, it was something good.
It's all good. It happens for about 3 weeks in December, and then we'll kind of let it go back to peace and quiet.
It's fun. Does anybody else have anything for Brandon? All right.
I'll leave a stack of my business cards, and I've left my contact information. I'm certainly planning on being in attendance for the monthly meeting, so
Perfect.
sorry for my delinquency, but here I am. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Just on a side note, Bob, I had that happen to me, but it was police sirens and police flashing lights, and I kept hearing, "Get out of the street," and "Stop, police," and it was coming from the grade school where my son was, so I walked up there. They had invited a police officer, and he was letting the kids out on the bullhorn and the siren. But somebody did.
You were walking toward the danger.
Exactly. And I did get a couple emails and questions of what was going on in your neighborhood, so yeah, I know how you feel. All right, John, ask OCPW.
Thank you. Well, I'll go through a few things. A couple things that we get a fair amount of questions about that I thought maybe I'd cover. A lot of people have noticed the traffic counters. We've got we use a company that counts traffic throughout the city, and they place rubber hoses, usually in pairs, 2 rubber hoses maybe across the full street, or it may just be across one lane. We do that pretty frequently, but every 3 years we collect data on all the city streets. So or not all the city streets, throughout all of the city, not on all the city streets, but throughout all of the city. So we use a company called Traffic Counts, and that's what they do. They count traffic. And so a lot of people have called and asked, is it a specific project? Is, some development going to happen? The answer is maybe, but that's not why we're doing the traffic counts. So we just do that every year, or every 3 years. And we post that information on our website as well. So, and the easiest way to get to it is through the OC web maps. and there's an actual link where you can go and you can click on a particular account and you can see the speed data, because there's speed data that comes with it, and traffic data. So just know that that information is available. We use it. The public can use it. Developers use it. It's available for that kind of use. So it's good data too. So take a look at that if you're interested, and just know if you're asked that it's not necessarily because there's some big development coming into town that's proposing a bunch of new traffic. So the other thing is on the screen here, I thought this was interesting. This is a report that comes weekly from our operations group. It's a program that we now use. We've been using it for, I don't know, about 5 years now, but we're really getting good at documenting the work that is required. And so the program's called Lucity. Most of you don't know that, or we don't provide access to it via the internet, but we provide these weekly reports, and this one's through December, so it's near the year end. I just thought it was kind of interesting. All the things that the guys write a work order for. So this is mostly, I shouldn't say guys and gals that we have in operations. So if there's a work order or anything to do with the kinds of things that happen at the operations center, they log that information, and this is just the number of work orders that we issue. We also we're starting to track time, and we're starting to track costs. So there's quite a number of issues there, anything from signage to utility locates to picking up dead animals, to turning water on and off, and, all kinds of things that we do. And the biggest thing is at the top of the list. If you go back up to the top, you might be surprised, but meter installation. So which tab are we on? We're on the main task all. So this is all the crews. We also track it by the various crews as well, because they're all interested in seeing who's written the most work orders, who's closed the most work orders. It gets a little competitive out there, so they're really good about tracking. They're getting much better about tracking that information. So, but meter installations, for instance, that's one of the big things that there's 239 of those work orders that were done in December, or through December in 2014. So locating water lines or doing utility locates, that's a big part of what we do. So I just wanted you to know that information was available. We look at that pretty regularly, and there's timesheets associated with it. If we can go behind the scenes to look at. Why don't you scroll over? See the can you scroll over a little bit more, Katie? And there's more sheets here. It's just just on the tabs. Sorry. So go to work orders completed, right there. That one. See what that one looks like. That's not the one I wanted. Next one. This is by division, so again, they get a little competitive with some of that thing. The water crew versus the street crew is, it's real important to know who's doing the most work and who's got the most staff and all those kinds of things. So they track that. Wastewater and storm, they're one crew, so they get a couple of bars to choose from. But it's just interesting information, and information that really where we found is when we fall into an emergency and we need to track how much work we've done. Let's say if it were an emergency where FEMA were involved and we maybe could get reimbursed for some of the work that we've done, having this kind of a system at hand is really pretty good. So just thought I'd share that little bit of information with you. And a couple things that we're working on project-wise right now. We're soliciting what we call statement of qualifications from engineering consultants. We work from a short list of consultants throughout the year to pick them for different kinds of work that we might hire them to do. And we updated that list about 5 years ago. We're probably close to 6 years now with the last time we actually solicited for statements of qualifications and created this short list that we picked from. And so we're updating that process. And a lot of it's focused on the sewer work that's coming as a result of the sewer moratorium. So the idea would be to have 4 or 5 consultants that we would just, as we identify the project, we assign them that project. We work with them on a scope and fee, and and hire them, and away they go. And we know they've got the qualifications that we need, and we know they know a fair amount about the city and what its needs are with regard to that work. So that's something that's underway, and we expect to get, I'm sure we'll get lots of submittals, and they're all due on December 12th, and then we go through a selection process and try and narrow a long, which I'm certain will be a long list of consultants down to about 4 or 5. So that's something that's coming. The 2014 paving projects are winding down. We had some quality work issues on some of the concrete work in particular. So if you live in McLaughlin neighborhood, you might notice that some of the new sidewalk ramps are being torn up and replaced. So we want to get that right. And there was a few areas where we weren't real happy with some of the finished products. So that's still ongoing. A couple of pump stations, one's under construction, just about ready to be finished. That's in the Barkley Hills neighborhood. And then we've got another one that we're working on near final plans for Settlers Point Pump Station, which is out off of Myers and forgetting the neighborhood that's out there. Can you help me out? It's
Tower Vista or Camby?
It's I think it may be
Wait, where's
Tower
it at?
Vista. It's off Frontier Parkway near Myers Road. Is that
That's Philadelphia.
That's Hillendale, yeah.
Ellendale?
It's kind of in between the two of those. Yeah.
I've forgotten which neighborhood that would be, but it's a small pump station. It's kind of hidden. Most people won't know it's there anyway. We need to basically do some equipment upgrades, so there won't be any major earthwork or new buildings going up. But most of the work will be within the pump station itself, so shouldn't be too impactful for the neighbors in that area. I just wanted to mention the Transportation Advisory Committee and some of the work that we've been doing there. We had a guest speaker from Clackamas County, Joe Merrick, who's their county engineer, traffic engineer, speak before the Transportation Advisory Committee. He did an excellent presentation on a safety action plan that the county has done for all of the county, and it also applies to Oregon City. I encourage you to get online and watch that, at least that section of the meeting. You don't have to watch the rest of the meeting, but that section of the meeting was really pretty good with regard to some of their work that they've done with their traffic safety action plan and how it applies to Clackamas County and really Oregon City. So it's a good presentation. The other things that we kind of went over were we did some of, I think we mentioned this, Martin may have mentioned this last month, but we did for the Kanema neighborhood, we did basically a road safety audit in your neighborhood. We walked the whole, I think we had almost every member of the Transportation Advisory Committee that decided that they wanted to take on the Kanema neighborhood. It was small enough to kind of take on with a walkthrough, so we had a group walkthrough there, and out of that came some recommendations for we're going to add a stop sign and some stop bars and some chevrons to denote a corner there that's maybe a little bit problematic. And we heard a fair amount about concerns about some of the traffic that comes in because of the Kanema Park and the Metro land acquisition out there, and how people overuse and maybe abuse some of the shoulder parking there for some of the neighborhoods. So try to work through some of those things. So I thought that was some good work and more than we had ever done, I think, in a neighborhood. So it was good to do that. And Linda, hopefully your neighbors are hearing about it and kind of getting a little feedback. I haven't checked with Martin to see if we've actually installed those measures yet, but I think it's soon.
They're not up yet, but we did talk about that at a meeting in November. It's nicely received.
Good. So that's TAC. We're working with downtown alleys. If you've been downtown, the alleys between 7th and 8th and 8th and 9th are under construction in one form or another. McLaughlin Boulevard, the Phase 2 work, they're starting landscaping and trying to work through this weather to get that thing finished up. It's starting to look like something. It's got new street lights, and they've got some of the steel sheets that are architectural features. They're not artwork, they're architectural features right at the corner there by River Place. So that's really starting to look like something that we will all use and enjoy, I think, if we do any walking at all, because it's right there near the park. So it definitely makes it easier to walk around that part of the city. And we've got some other things that are in the design phase right now, which I won't necessarily go over. But and I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I missed. I think. Oh, well, winter weather. So you mentioned it. There's a lot of de-icer going down. We're trying to hit the forecast when it's wrong or right, but we're trying to hit it and get out in front of that. So hopefully that helps with all crews that need it, or all people that need those facilities. So.
Still missing my driveway.
Oh, my
If you'd have been
parking lot,
elected mayor,
too.
Bob, we might have got We don't do that. That's all I have.
Okay. I have had numerous comments about the de-icing, so appreciating that, seeing it happening the night before, even not knowing, so that's nice. I did have a concern, I don't know if it's still that way, right there down at the McLaughlin Phase 2, when you're going down that little road in between the water
Firestone
feature.
Alley.
What is it called?
Firestone Alley.
No,
No,
Dunes Drive.
actually
Oh, the
Dunes
other side,
Drive.
Dunes Drive.
So the right-hand lane to go down the hill was closed off. I don't know if it still is. And so they took the turn lane and the coming up, and they made those be the down and the up. And I've been about hit head on several times. People that are used to coming up and making a left turn on McLaughlin, and then you've got someone going down, because that's how they're supposed to go down. So if that's still set up, there was no markings. It was really confusing
Just cones.
for people.
You mean
There's just
traffic.
yeah, there was just cones, but down at the bottom of the hill coming up, it didn't let you know, don't take this, people are going to be coming down.
Okay.
So, yeah, because it made that middle lane be what you're going down instead of the people coming up to take a left. And so I've almost been hit, and I've seen numerous almost. I don't know if there's been any accidents, but yeah, it's not marked. Kathy, you had something?
Yeah, two things. So you're saying when they put the counter out, that can decipher your speed then too? Is that how it is? It's not another thing in any of the mechanism? It's in the
Yeah, the counter's programmed such that that's why they have the two tubes, even though they're within just a couple of feet of one another.
And that's enough to do
it'll
it.
tell you this. Yeah, it'll calculate the speed. So, yeah.
Okay,
So
and-
we'll have average speeds and the 85th percentile speed and
Oh.
a lot of the maximum speed. It gives you a lot of data.
And you
Okay,
share that with the
interesting.
police department.
We do. Yeah,
Yeah.
we do.
Well, and then the other thing is, I noticed the housing development that's coming across the street, that one of your guys was out there, and they were looking, the plywood's on top of this vault, and it's where power lines and all this stuff is going through, and I was thinking, they've got the hay down and stuff, they're done, they've got all the stuff in, but I didn't know if it was something that they're inspecting, or because they haven't been there for 3 weeks or whatever, so I didn't know what they would be doing, looking in this thing that's got just a piece of plywood. It's not capped off or anything on Central
know.
Point.
Maybe they were wondering why it was just covered with plywood instead of capped off. I don't
Well,
know. Kevin.
actually, it's supposed to be, from when talking to the guys that work in and watching them scratch their head, they want 2 poles that are on the east side of the road, the big power lines. That ain't going to happen, because the one pole you'd have to take out of the sidewalk, you'd have to dig everything up on the road, and power, PGE isn't going to do it, city isn't going to do it, and neither is the developer. But they have the stuff there for them. And I don't know if they check for amount of water during the rainy seasons in that, or to make sure that there's not water collecting in them. It's not covered up very good.
Maybe you and I can figure it out later. We
Yeah.
can talk about that offline.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for John? Didn't see any. Okay, thank you. All right, Amber is not here tonight, but Karen has
Stuck with me.
the update.
All right, we have a handout coming around, kind of a recap of all sorts of things. Reminder that we're taking part in the Snowflake raffle. There's a whole lot of participating businesses. In fact, even a $25 worth of beverage and delicious breakfast at the 505 Tavern, and you can get a raffle ticket. That will continue through December 13th. The drawing will be held on December 13th. The first place winner will get $2,500. Second place, $1,000. Third place, $500. So it's worth entering. Get out, shop small. That was been our push all weekend. But shop your local merchants and get entered in the raffle. We then have some of the events going on, and Kathy, the very first one on the front is
I
the
noticed.
Taste from Phyllis Stocking, which is December 4th. On the back, this Saturday is the day to be in Oregon City. There's St. Nicholas Fair at St. Paul's Episcopal Church, and Rita might dress up in her boa for you for that. If you saw her in the newspaper, she looks lovely. Heritage open houses, all three of the museum houses will be open, and there will also be programming down at the Interpretive Center. Three Rivers Artists Guild has their art show. The tree lighting is Saturday starting at 4:30. Then next week there's also the Light Up a Life celebration at the shopping center. We've also included a list of places that if you're looking for somewhere to give this Christmas, there's different locations looking for different items. Angels in the Outfield can use toys and coats. The fire department is out getting unwrapped toys and non-perishable food right now. If you're not on an Operation Santa Claus route, you can take it by the fire station. And also, if I'm going to remember, iHealth Northwest, Tachos, and one more place in Oregon City.
Number of community partners, especially in Oregon City, that have or should be listed on our website.
And I happened to notice this evening there's a cute little Christmas tree out in the lobby here that has little stars on it, and they're wish lists from the Pioneer Center. So you can take a star and buy some items to make Christmas a little happier for a senior. And just an aside comment, tonight before I came here, I went to the ribbon cutting at Providence Willamette Falls Medical Center for the new Cardiac Rehabilitation Center. So part of the physical therapy department now has full cardiac rehabilitation, which was only available at the one over on far on the far west side with Providence, St. Vincent's. So now we have it locally available and impressive looking and very closely monitored. Met some of the staff, so that's a welcome addition to medical care in our community.
It's great. Thank you. That was Chamber of Commerce update for those watching that don't have the agenda out in front of them to know what that was all about. Now, the approval of the minutes. Did anyone have any changes that they needed to have to the minutes that they didn't already send in? No changes?
Yeah, there's one thing. I just find it. But it's pretty simple.
You might need to move closer to your mic, Harris.
Yeah. First I have to find it. And it's a small matter. It must not be very important.
I'm sure it is. Everything is important.
Is it under your name, Harris, on the back page?
Yeah. Miss me. I can't even find where the minutes are.
John Lewis wasn't putting a moratorium on building, or were you? Is it the sewer moratorium?
It's a building moratorium.
No, it was just that the December 6th CIC meeting is probably meant to be December 1st. Under number 6, unfinished business, second page, bylaws committee update.
Oh, yeah.
December 6th? Should be December 1st.
Yeah, I was having a hard time calling this meeting the first. I kept wanting to call it the third. I don't know. I guess I just wasn't ready for December. Okay, did anybody else notice anything? All right.
I moved to pass the bylaws.
Bylaws.
The minutes of
We could move ahead fast.
3 November 2014.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Tom?
All right, so we have a motion and a motion by Bob and second by Tom O'Brien. So roll call. Tony's not here. So Linda?
I vote they approve them.
Okay. Dennis?
Approve.
Amy?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Joyce?
Aye.
Faith?
Aye.
Rita?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Barbara?
Yes?
Harris,
Aye.
Karen,
I
Gary,
Aye.
and Todd.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Okay. With that, we will then turn the time back over to Karen, but this time to talk about the bylaws that Harris wanted to do. Oh, no, Bob wanted
No,
to
Bob-
just do
Bob
it. Sorry,
already-
Bob. You missed out that you helped last time. and
Bob
you just
already
wanted to-
approved them, so we're just going to move
Oh, that's
ahead.
right. I did not receive any emails. I was expecting one from Todd. I thought you had some comments, but I didn't.
I didn't have a chance to do it.
Yeah, so,
It looks like you made some changes.
There's one addition from what you saw the last time, and it's on the first page. Section 2, under B, we clarified the language about being the officially recognized Citizen Advisory Committee to meet LCDC statewide planning Goal 1, and as required by Goal 1, is responsible for developing, implementing, and evaluating the citizen involvement program. So that matches some of the statutory language. And then thanks to Faith, we found one very important word was missing. On page 3, section 5, the first line does need to be changed to any appointed representative who has 2 unexcused absences shall be deemed to have vacated his or her position.
Unexcused,
Yeah, you're just kind of unexcused up until that point.
While-
So,
While you're there, in the past, that has referenced per calendar year. I don't see that here. I don't know if we want it, but it was
You should have
It
it.
added.
2 unexcused per calendar year.
Yeah.
that would make sense. And that was our intention when we discussed this.
When you're ready, I have a number of other comments.
Okay,
Are you ready?
yes.
Okay. I went back and, as Karen has pointed out, the reason for the existence of the CIC, one of the primary reasons, is Goal 1 of LCDC. But over and above that, it's the City of Oregon City's choice to have us act in that capacity in order to meet Goal 1. And I went and I looked at their requirements under the latest Oregon City Master Plan, which under their plan, there's a couple of things that they state that we don't have in our bylaws, and I'm thinking we probably would want to include them. Their Goal 1 says, implement a citizen involvement program that will provide an active and systematic process for citizen participation in all phases of the land use decision-making process to enable citizens to consider and act upon a broad range of issues affecting the livability, community sustainability, and quality of neighborhoods and the community as a whole. In our current draft, we do not include communities, I'm looking at section 3, we do not include community sustainability, and we do not have community as a whole. So I would suggest that we might want to consider, as the mission, the CIC will consider a broad range of issues affecting the livability, community sustainability, and the quality of the city's, or delete the and, comma, quality of the city's neighborhoods, comma, and the community as a whole. That way we're in alignment with the city's goal planning process, which is what we're really trying to accomplish here as a CIC. And so, if this is their working plan, then, we need to be in lockstep with them on that one. Also noticed that in their document, if we look at Article 2, Section 1, their comprehensive plan on page 5 talks about, let me find the actual information here. The city manager provides a city liaison And the public affairs manager provides staff assistance to the CIC. So I'm not sure who the public affairs manager is. I didn't know we had one in the city, but the goals for the city state that that's our relationship between the CIC and the city. So I think we need to investigate that before we go forward.
Part of what we were doing with this rewrite is clarifying that the city is only providing us with a liaison to the city.
Well, but
So that
then they need to
means
change their
But
goal.
there's, well, no, it says they provide a liaison.
Well,
But then the
liaison-
second part.
But the
But
second part is they also provide, the public affairs manager provides staff assistance. So I guess we need to inform ourselves a little bit on what that is.
But they are, in a way, assisting us
Yeah,
for
Katie is
our
providing staff
postcards.
assistance. What on earth is the public liaison?
Do you mind if I interject?
Please.
Or- okay.
Please do.
So I think that when the comp plan was created and that was in there, I think that's when Mary Palmer was the public.
I believe she was already
yes.
gone, because it was developed in 2004. She was not here in 2004.
She was still here.
In 2004?
2004.
Yeah.
She was here for a couple of years after.
Yeah, and I think that's the position that it's referring to in that document.
Okay.
As far as I know, that hasn't been updated since then.
No,
And
it
so, since that position was then eliminated, it's no longer a position with the city. So the city manager has redirected that to be me.
So you are acting in both of those capacities.
In a light way, yes. That has since, I mean, like the duties of that position has since changed. So it's, if you remember, well, you might not remember, but when we were going back through how the city recognizes the neighborhood associations, there's a resolution that recognizes each one of the neighborhood associations, and with that resolution, there's also an agreement. And in that agreement, it states something along the lines of the city manager, at his or her discretion, will appoint a liaison or a person that may be able to assist in a certain capacity based upon resources and budgetary constraints or whatever. And it just basically lists some of the support things that the staff person may or may not do based upon if the city manager directs them to do so.
Right.
And so I think that's,
I guess I
Filling
would
that
request that you take this back to the city manager so that when they next update the Oregon City
Comp
master
plan.
plan, comp plan, that change takes place to coincide with what's really happening.
sure, I'll let,
I was just looking at the two documents side by side.
Sure.
And they weren't jiving, and I thought, that doesn't make sense that they don't jive for whatever
Yeah.
reasons.
We're just functioning in the current reality.
So,
I'll let him know. Thank you.
thank you. Couple of other things. Section 2, under B1,
Then Article 3.
Article B, Section 2, Article B,
Which article?
1,
Okay, Article 3, Section 2,
sorry.
subsection B.
okay, thank you.
3, 2. Okay.
We have received a form that will be used henceforth if we approve it, and that would be the verification form. So I just wanted to call attention to the fact that, yes, we can approve the bylaws based on the approved form, once the form is approved.
The form actually doesn't require approval. Once you've approved that a form will be used, you don't have to go back and approve the form. You will just get the form.
Okay, but is this not referring to this form?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the approved
With
form.
with the adoption at this point, that will give you an approved form.
Okay, thank you.
And approved basically means to the secretary and chair.
On page 3, Article 3, Section 4. There's been a lot of consolidation relative to comparison with the previous bylaws.
Correct.
And there were two things that I thought probably we would want to discuss whether they need to be added or put back in that were deleted. And I need to find the spots. In the old version, or the current version, there was an item to represent community/individual concerns and improvement ideas. There was also one to transmit information. And I think both of those are appropriate to our goal or our mission. And I would like to suggest that they be inserted back in there as items G and H. Okay?
Okay, sit on those two.
List.
Which ones were they again? J and K? No.
Originally, they were K and I,
And they
or
would become
L,
G and H.
excuse me,
K
and they would now be G and H.
Not C and H sugar. That
No.
Further down under Article 4, Section 2, I think it would read more appropriately that if we inserted the word members after the CIC, therefore it would read, the CIC members will be responsible to provide notification of CIC meetings, CIC elections, CIC actions to their neighborhood associations, rather than the CIC leaves it kind of real vague.
You want members or representatives?
Well, either one, just the CIC representative to that neighborhood, in reality, should be the one carrying that information and reporting back to the neighborhoods. And right now, it's kind of vague,
Representatives, right.
so,
we use both terms throughout the bylaws, I noticed.
Pick a term.
also, and I'm not sure where it fits in exactly, but I noticed under Article 5, elections, we talk, and we've done this in the past, and it is a little confusing to new people who come on to the CIC because they aren't into the sequencing the way the rest of us who have served for a while are. And that is, we talk about holding the elections in the December general meeting of an election year. I'd like to see something inserted stating that the election years occur on the even-numbered years. That way we know
That would make sense.
what the year is. We know that we don't do it on the 5s or the 9s or the 7s or the 1s.
That would also go under Section 1C then.
Yeah, it could be a number of places. I think it's just a matter of where it fits best. And I didn't really pick a spot where it would be best. I personally felt a little bit uncomfortable with Article 5, Section 5, where election results will be tallied by 2 CIC members that are not running for office. I'd like that either clarified and use a random selection process such as you do in selecting grievance committee members, or go back to having 2 city staff members count those ballots. I think rather than just leaving it loose, we leave ourselves open to shenanigans.
So like 2 randomly selected
Yeah, I think if we just...
members, is that clear
yeah.
enough, or do we need to say by the chair? Would it?
I think by the chair. Use the same language that is for selecting the grievance committee.
Okay.
So appointed, 2 appointed CIC members?
I think randomly selected kind of gives the message
Okay.
better.
Yeah, that way it doesn't fall upon a preset situation. Also, one of the things that we encountered when we formed the grievance committee to handle one of the neighborhood situations was that as we got into the process, we were blindsided after spending many, many hours of meetings and deliberations and reading of documents and so forth and so on, we were told as the process was about to wrap up that we were in violation of public meeting laws because we were the committee of a CIC. So we have nothing in our bylaws anywhere that states that committees of the CIC have to notice their meetings because of the Oregon Public Records laws. And if that's something that's going to be required, then I think we have to have it in our bylaws. And all of these subcommittees are acting as a public body and have to notice their meetings in the appropriate manner and keep the appropriate records, et cetera, et cetera.
The reason that that had to happen was because the wording in our current bylaws is that the grievance committee got to make the decision and then report to the CIC. So in the draft, we've proposed that, if you'll notice, like section 2E, the very last thing there under grievance, so that's on page 6E.
Under Article 6.
It says the CIC will hear the recommendation and vote on a final decision. So the grievance committee is just recommending, and then the CIC will vote on the decision.
Okay.
And that's when we discussed last time, that was the problem that we had. It was because the grievance committee got to make the final
Have we
decision.
gotten the city's attorney approvals to do that?
That was their recommendation.
Okay. All right. That satisfies the concern I had, because we were blindsided on that.
Yeah,
and
that was their
I
recommendation.
didn't want that continuing to happen. One other item here is under Article 7, Section 2C, Secretary. We may want to consider that instead of prepares the minutes, prepares the draft of the minutes and the final minutes. There's nothing in here referencing a draft, which, you know, all minutes that are drafted need to be ultimately approved by the body. And so it is the responsibility of the secretary to prepare the draft as well as the minutes.
Right, and I see that come up a lot with different city things. My training, there is no such thing as draft minutes. Minutes are minutes. They're presented to the body for correction at the meeting. There are minutes, and there are minutes as corrected. There are no draft minutes. So basically, the proper procedure is the secretary prepares the minutes, presents them at the meeting. At that point, any additions or corrections may be made to them.
So you're
Then they then become the adopted minutes.
So you're suggesting that what Nancy Ide's procedures have been with the city commission meeting minutes
Incorrect.
are incorrect.
Minutes are minutes. There's no draft minutes.
But I've seen, they say draft half the
Yeah, I
time.
know. but
I
they're
wouldn't
minutes.
want to violate anything Nancy has studied long and hard to do.
Yeah, well, and I've also done a lot of parliamentary procedure. Minutes are minutes. They're not, that is the secretary's record of what occurred at the meeting, which is not always perfect, so they can be added to or corrected at the meeting, but they are the minutes of the body. And they can be, changed in the meeting and voted on.
But I can see wanting to put at least part of the process down, at least, so it's not sounding like it's just one, like you prepare the minutes one time and you're done. Is that?
Yeah, it
Kind of a-
kind
there's a
of, it was
little
kind of
process.
loose a little bit, I felt. And, you know, you're going through a process, but, you know, I think the final approval, the process needs to be explained a little bit better.
So we could say-
Wait a minute, we're explaining the duties of the secretary. It is the secretary's duty to prepare the minutes. The body votes on the minutes. There's no further process.
I understand that, but it doesn't say that here.
We could, what if it said submits the approved minutes to the city liaison.
No, approved yet. They're not approved.
Oh, this is before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that you.
Got it.
Your standard agenda has the approval of the minutes.
And after
There's no reason.
they're approved, they're submitted.
Yeah, but
Or something to
that's
that
part of your
effect.
standard agenda. There's no purpose to putting that under the secretary's responsibilities. That's just normal
The
procedure.
secretary said prepares the minutes for approval.
It's really for presentation at the meeting.
Yeah.
This is the secretary's responsibilities. The secretary is responsible to prepare the minutes. That's it.
Submits the minutes to the city.
Is prepare the word that we're having a problem with then?
No, I think the thing I'm having the problem with is that the things that are submitted to us and are distributed by the city liaison are usually drafts.
They're not yet approved minutes,
Correct.
basically, but they're the minutes.
for it, is they put draft.
Yeah, that's where I'm not comfortable.
All right, members. We have we have two people's opinion.
How many people think the word draft needs to go in
Wait,
there?
Rita has something to say.
Well, I've worked with a lot of officers and so on, and I think Karen is correct. The secretary prepares the minutes, they're read or they're printed, and then if there are changes made, that becomes the corrected minutes or whatever the correct term will be.
Well, and when you say that, we never see the corrected minutes because I never get a copy to put in my files. It's always the one.
Oh, you can go online.
You can go online.
Yeah.
and
The
get them.
corrected ones are online.
The
They're always
corrected ones are
online.
online. All right, so to
Well, you've got
simplify,
a better computer than I do.
simplify this and speed it up slightly, how many people think the word draft needs to be included in that paragraph? It appears that one doesn't need to be changed. Then we're going to figure it out and deal with the rest of
Okay.
it.
Article 9, meetings, Section 3. Any person may request to add an item to the agenda by submitting the item in writing at least 7 days in advance of the meeting. After submitting the item, I would like to see to the chair,
Yes, you're right.
because, we could submit it to the secretary doesn't show up for the meeting, secretary's not involved in establishing the agenda.
Actually, I wrote that in there before you said it.
They requested the chair.
To be submitted to the chair. I think that was it.
So where are we putting be submitted?
Agenda by submitting to
Section
the chair the
3A,
item
Article 9, Section
Actually, in writing.
3A,
in writing to the
after
chair.
the word
Right.
item,
Okay.
to the chair.
In writing to the
No,
chair?
actually, keep down one more line.
Submit the item to the chair in writing at least 7 days in advance of the meeting,
Word item, you say to the
I'd
chair.
actually put it down here, but that's okay.
wherever you want it. Also under C of that Section 3,
Yeah, in writing to the chair.
there's something that we used to have on our agenda that we have not recently had on our agenda, and yet most committees within the city do incorporate it in their agendas. We are a body which is supposedly representing citizens. We used to have citizens' comments for those things which were not on the agenda, giving the opportunity to someone in the city who wanted to come and attend our meetings to share with us information. I think we need to insert that back in along with the Public Utilities Report and the Chamber's report as a standard item on the agenda.
All right, and that was deliberately removed. We felt that...
Actually, it was never in there.
It really wasn't. It showed up on the agenda. There was nothing in the bylaws that provided for citizen comments. We believe we've covered the process by either having so item A is that any person, that's not a CIC member, anybody whatsoever, may request to add an item to the agenda by submitting it to the chair. Then item B, any member of the CIC may request to add an item to the agenda. That includes at the beginning of the meeting, if a member wants an item added. That also will give the body the ability, though, to say yes or no to adding that additional item.
Actually, I think that
So it provides actually for more input in a formal process than just putting citizen comment down on an agenda. And there was no provision for citizen comment in the prior bylaws.
now that you bring that up, though, I think we need to any member of the CIC may request to add an item. Still needs to be 7 days in advance because it needs to be properly notified. So we need to add that in there.
You might want to combine those two into one, but I really think that since we are representative of the city, the citizens as a whole, and we are expected to be listening to them, that we need to give them the opportunity without 7 day advance. They don't even know who our chair is when they walk in that door. When they walk in that door, you know, if Mike wanted to talk about something tonight, he wouldn't have a snowball's chance of telling us what's on his mind. And I think that we owe it to our citizens to be able to share with us. It's for our benefit that they come and try to share. And I really do feel strongly that that needs to be a permanent item on our agenda.
And we
And I
felt
agree
it
with
was,
that
thing of it is
because-
and also
Wait,
we
wait, wait.
felt it was more important that it be noticed so that everyone knows it will be on the agenda and it will be an item for discussion. One of the problems with citizen comments is you get blindsided, or it's something that someone else may have wanted to make a comment on. And when you just walk up to the microphone and decide this is what I'm going to say tonight, oh yeah, having been one of those culprits at city commission meetings, there's no way to respond. Other people don't have a chance to respond. Other people don't have a chance to comment. By requiring that it be added to the agenda 7 days in advance and noticed, then everyone gets fair notice that this is what will be topics of discussion tonight.
Also, I want to point out that when we were having our bylaws meeting, one of the things we talked about is this meeting is made up of representatives for the neighborhood associations, and we're representing our neighborhoods. And so there should, if someone out there has a concern, they should come to their neighborhood representative, and we should bring it up. There should be nothing held back. If somebody has a concern, then that's how we're supposed to note it. That is, we're different from the other committees, and that we don't have the ability to make decisions and enforce things.
But
so let me finish.
Okay, when you're done.
We're going to go in order with who's requesting. We got to move along. But that, I'm just letting you know how it's not in there. It never was in there. And when we talked about should it be added, that was one of the things that came up, is that we are representatives of our neighborhoods. The city commission, the TAC, they have places for citizens because they're not made up of the whole city with representatives from the whole city. And so that was our thought process at the meeting, that is the way that things to be brought here. It's not just a free-for-all for anybody to come and talk. We're welcome to talk about any topic, but it should be talked about in the neighborhood where it started first.
The school board operates similarly to us. They have representatives from the various districts in the city. They have on their agenda, every meeting, a public comments locked in for those things which are not on their agenda. And I think if we want to be transparent and we don't want to be a closed, cliquey organization, we really need to take into consideration those people whom we are supposedly representing. Not all of them have the opportunity to come to their neighborhood meetings. Not all of them know who their chairs are. Not all of them know who the CIC chair is, to whom they must make the request in advance.
No, we're going to go to Bob.
Well, I'll stay on that same subject, but I have some other items to discuss. I think we should have citizen comments on the agenda because the individual neighborhoods don't have monthly meetings. Park Place has general meetings 3 times a year. So there are many things that come up between those meetings that the citizens would want to bring forth to the CIC. That's just one reason. I've researched all the other committees in the city, and every other one of the committees has citizen comments on their agendas, with the exception of one. I think we need to be open for the citizens to express their concerns with us. I feel very, very strongly about that. Some of the other things I had here are, let's see here. I had a part about feeling uncomfortable about the notification loop. Let's see, that would be page 3. Article 3, Section 5. Excused or unexcused absences. I think that's a little iffy, because do we have a definition of excused or unexcused absences? And who makes that decision? Without a definition of those kind of absences, it's strictly an arbitrary decision by whoever is making that decision. So I would be a little bit concerned about that.
You know, I thought we did.
I swear we put that in there somewhere, Bob.
Because that was one of the biggest things we were looking at on here was the when you're out, when you're in. And we certainly did intend to explain how to get an excused absence.
Well, so you'll
Word
take,
absence missing?
Yes,
It is.
They already know
Faith
that.
added that one back for us. Sorry. That was earlier. And Bob, you are correct. We do need something in there that basically says notifying the secretary, basically it should notify the secretary in advance that they will be absent, and that constitutes an excused absence. We're not going to make you bring in your doctor's note or anything. It's just giving
All
advance
passed.
notice that you won't be present. So if we maybe put in a new an absence will be excused if notice is given to the secretary 24 hours at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting. Is that?
I don't think you need to do that on a time frame, because with certain things you have no control of. And I can tell you that by having 3 people die within 7 months and spending 11 nights waiting for one person to die. So I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think we had talked about at one point that
Yeah.
you needed to inform the secretary by 5 o'clock on the day of the meeting.
Well,
'Cause-
you know, when you're watching somebody die, you don't think of those things. So
No, and if you just have the one unexcused, then that's okay. That's okay.
No, it isn't. Not, I mean, if they came back and told you later when they had the time, they could make it an excused one then?
I think that we're all people.
Yeah.
I think that could be a good decision to make, retroactive, if a person has a dire emergency like that. Probably the last thing you're thinking about is your attendance at the CIC.
I would hope,
Yeah, I'm not in
And
school.
so I'd say that
It's
if
not
you
a
called
school.
afterwards and say, this is why I didn't make it, which would certainly be excusable.
Yeah. Nobody else should be put in
Okay,
that
so
position.
try to write a fast sentence. An absence will be considered excused if the secretary has been notified by 5 p.m. the day of the meeting that the member will not be present, or in the case of an emergency, notice is given within a reasonable time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds
What's
better.
reasonable time?
Just
Is that-
saying.
By the, yeah.
not a year.
Okay, I got in a car wreck on the way here. I'm
Before
in a
we vote
coma
on
for
the minutes.
7.5 days.
Okay, I'm still not, for the reasons that I mentioned at the last meeting, comfortable with having the secretary be the recipient of that. I think our liaison is a better person to be available to communicate that to. The liaison tends to be at each of our meetings. The secretary has missed our last 2 meetings. Any communications I've attempted to have with our secretary have been unacknowledged. Therefore, I wouldn't know whether that message got to them and then was received by the chair and the vice chair. I think Katie is, or whoever is the liaison, is a lot more apt to be an able recipient of that piece of information. The rest of the duties of the secretary I'm comfortable with.
Or
But-
what about just to the officers?
About the
I mean,
secretary or
I
the
got-
chair?
On anything that anyone here has
I'm
sent to the
comfortable-
secretary and CC'd me, I have gotten.
I'm comfortable with the officers, with any officer.
Okay, with that officer.
In the old bylaws, page 3, Article 2, Section 6, referred to granting leaves of absence, and then would also explain how a temporary person could be assigned to that person's position on the CIC, such as happened with Joyce when she was a temporary assignment to the CIC when they had illness.
Bob, I'm sorry, we had a sidebar here. I didn't hear the beginning of that comment.
Oh, well, in the old bylaws, there was a section which has been totally eliminated in the new bylaws, which referred to granting leaves of absence with prior written notification to the chair or vice chair, and blah, blah, blah. So a temporary replacement can be assigned. If somebody had a serious stroke, like happened in their neighborhood, and couldn't come for several months, without that section in there in writing, they probably wouldn't be able to have a second representative.
Do you remember when we discussed that? If my memory recalls, when we were discussing that, we talked about the fact that even though it was written in there a leave of absence, it's still the person, like Joyce, for example, had to still be certified by her neighborhood that she was the replacement. And so, since it's going through the same process, then it's not really, we were talking about it, it's not really a leave of absence. In actuality, you're replaced, and then when you're ready to come back, your neighborhood will put you back on and take off the temporary. So it's kind of up to the neighborhoods. It's not up to the CIC to decide, because we don't get to go out to the neighborhoods and pick our representatives. We're just, it's kind of that was our thought process
Okay.
at the time. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, and that it basically it just puts it back on the neighborhood association. So if they want to choose a new representative and certify them and let the other person be recertified when they're able to return, that made better sense.
That may take 3 or 4 months to occur, though.
It doesn't, it's, the executive boards of the neighborhood associations can approve the representatives. It doesn't have to be a full meeting.
If that's in their bylaws.
Yes. So that's, but the
Same thing with a leave of absence.
Yeah, and we're really not in a position to give your representative a leave of absence. It's up to the neighborhood association to decide who's representing them.
Okay, back to page 3 on the new bylaws, Article 2, or let's see here, Section 5A. It shall be the responsibility of the CIC secretary to notify the neighborhood association of those members in danger of losing their membership. I feel a little uncomfortable with that because, again, we're inserting a third-party responsibility, and sometimes the neighborhood associations don't have regular meetings, and I think that it should be the responsibility of the CIC secretary to notify that person directly, as it was in the old bylaws, rather than going through a third party and having delays and maybe miscommunications.
What, though, if that person does not communicate that back to their neighborhood association for a period of months? The purpose of this is when there's a single absence, the secretary is to notify, if they've been absent once, the secretary notifies the neighborhood association that they have one unexcused absence.
Well, it doesn't say that they have to do that.
Well,
I'd
they're
say
in
that,
danger of
if
losing
they-
their membership if they've, after one.
Well, I don't think they'd be in danger of losing their membership. And that wouldn't be possible. But I think once the secretary has notified that person who's missed too many meetings and they got a response that they don't want to participate, or they got no response, then the secretary would notify their neighborhood association.
Or
But after-
perhaps the neighborhood association chair could be copied on the notice to the member.
But here's the deal. If we say that after 2 unexcused absences, they've vacated their position, if they decide, no, we didn't, that wasn't our intent, they still have to be recertified because we've deemed them vacated.
Well, it
So
says
that still has to be
more
done.
than 3, or more than 2, which would mean 3.
Amy?
Once they've been gone twice, then they're deemed vacated.
I thought it was worded, I'd have to look at the wording.
It says,
back.
well, it says any,
If they missed more than 2 meetings.
If they've
So
missed two,
miss more
once they
than
miss
2 would be 3 meetings.
once they miss 2 meetings, they're no longer.
and we went back through the
representative.
other committees and boards and commissions to see what the verbiage was, and this falls in line with the other boards and commissions.
And I
I'm
think
saying.
part of the phrasing here, I'm not sure choosing the words "in danger of losing their membership" was the proper language. That probably would be better said. It's the responsibility of the CIC secretary to notify the neighborhood association when a member is has had 2 unexcused absences
And
and
has
has
been deemed.
vacated their position. Because that's what we've kind of set up above. You missed 2 meetings, you vacated your position, then after that second absence, it would be the secretary's responsibility to notify the neighborhood association that that representative position is now vacant.
So they get no warning.
So I guess we could fix it. We could have A,
Reach
B.
bylaws.
We could have A, B, or it could say that it's the secretary to notify the neighborhood, the representative, if they are in danger. So after they've missed 1, the secretary would say, you've got an unexcused absence. Then we'd add a different B that said that after the second time, they would notify the neighborhood association that the representative. What would that?
Yeah, and I think I would
Does that make
probably
sense?
say the secretary will notify the member after the first
got you,
unexcused
Rita.
absence.
The thing that has occurred to me is that every neighborhood has 2 representatives. And so I have already talked to our committee about Kurt missing. And you know, if she's gone, he should let the neighborhood association know. And so I don't know that it's necessarily even something that, I mean, maybe
There are
it's
some
good.
of us, like Todd and I and Brian, that only have 1.
Oh, there are. Oh, I didn't
Not by
know.
choice. We'd love to have someone else coming.
Okay.
Okay, so to make
But that's a
little-
good point.
Okay, so to make it a little more clear, and hopefully I'll figure out what I wrote here later. So under what had become B will now be, it shall be the responsibility of the CIC secretary to notify a representative after the first unexcused absence. Then a new C, the CIC secretary. It will be the responsibility of the CIC secretary to notify the neighborhood association after the second unexcused absence.
I think it has to have chair in there somewhere.
Okay,
you
neighborhood
don't- you don't-
association chair
Right.
Notify the association.
will notify the neighborhood association chair that the representative has vacated his or her position. And then re-letter
D and E.
the next 2.
Okay.
If it,
I talked myself out.
if it was,
You did good.
if it was the chair that was missing both of them, though, we wouldn't be able to inform him, or perhaps.
We could say officers.
Yeah.
Neighborhood notice the neighborhood association officers.
Dear Chair, you have. Would you please let yourself know that you have vacated your position on the CIC?
Joyce.
Boy, so much discussion has gone since I put this up. But I'll start with the one on, let's see, on page 3, Article 3, Section 3, at the top of the page. So we're talking about vacating positions. There'll be no dues or other requirements imposed which would in any way prevent any person who meets the description in Article 3, Section 2 from becoming or remaining a member of the CIC, except if they have 2 unexcused absences?
That's old standard language, and it means that you don't have to have like a certain relationship or pay dues. We could take out the other requirements.
I understand, that once the neighborhoods have appointed people, they are that representative until the neighborhood chooses to change that, unless they have 2 unexcused absences where we kick them out. But that's not noted on Section 3, so that was just...
Well, again, that extra language could be taken out, and it's not they get kicked out. I think one of our concerns is sometimes the neighborhood association, and especially when you meet quarterly, you may not even know who your representative is. You don't know if they're here representing you. This is to kind of keep everybody on task, that when your neighborhood association chooses you to represent them in this body, you have an obligation to do that. And if you just don't show up for 2 meetings, you're not doing what your neighborhood association chose you to do, and they have a right to know that they're not being represented. So, and at that point, it's up to them. They can recertify that person again and say, hey, remember to make a phone call if you're not going to make it to the meeting. It's not that hard to get an excused absence. So the point was that there have been some instances where someone is appointed and they just kind of show up when they feel like it. They're not representing their neighborhood, they're not representing you, and they're not helping us because they're not here for each meeting following the flow of the process.
What if you just took out the words or remaining?
Or other requirements.
Well, I think the other requirements helps with the whole financial.
Yeah, and I don't think that applies in any way, shape, or form to the language about because we've already said they have to be certified. We're saying that they're decertified after 2 unexcused absences. I don't see the relationship between those 2 clauses.
Members?
The meaning of Section 3 is something totally different.
But they're remaining a member.
Joyce, it's a whole different meaning. It's just saying that you cannot set restrictions on who can be a representative. So the nice guy with the mustache back there, I'm going to come up with a new rule for our neighborhood association that says no one with a mustache is allowed to represent us at the CIC.
I know I'm not supposed to speak, but I was trying to help on that. Section 3 says you can't remain, that you cannot be prevented from remaining a member of CIC. Section 5 says if you don't attend, you're removed.
Okay, so the
all I was
remaining
trying
is
to
the
point
issue.
out is there's a conflict between the two, because
Okay.
number 3 says you can't, that you are entitled to remain, and number 5 says you can be removed for
Yeah, I think if you just
not
took out the
attending.
or remaining.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
looking at the wrong sentence when I was arguing this one, so you're right. That's going down to that sentence, so...
You could either take out or remaining,
Yep.
or add, except for as stated in section 5 below.
Yeah, and I honestly think we can take out the or remaining easily, because the whole purpose of this was that you cannot set special criteria for someone to be a representative. And it's one of the things that you could say you have to have 1 woman and 1 man from every neighborhood association.
No,
We
but-
can't say that.
Right, that's not what I was saying. I was just, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Now that we're both on the same page, thank you very much, Karen.
Actually, we're on the same line right now. We were on the same page.
Same line, same page, all right.
Okay.
Getting back to the earlier discussion about non-item agendas being brought up at meetings. And the people that come in to speak to our group, they need to speak to their neighborhoods first. And whether their neighborhoods need to call a special meeting, or they need to get a hold of their neighborhood chair or that core group. And they have to know who those people are, because they know about these meetings by going to the city website. And all of the representatives are listed on that city website. The exception being neighborhoods that do not have representation here. And I'm not sure if every neighborhood on the website, Katie, you might be able to help me on this, ones that don't send a representative here.
Just Caulfield.
And they do have a chair and a vice chair and co-chair.
And
So
they're
they
welcome
have
at any
people
time to
listed.
come.
So there are ways that people could find out where the first step of approaching us would be to go through their own neighborhood first. And I'm on the side that adding things to the agenda or bringing things up that are not on the agenda, things that are not on the agenda, we as neighbors bring them up at roundtable. And so if they need something, then if they want to come to this meeting and didn't know that they had to go through their person first, this would be a night that they could talk to their representatives. Step out in the hallway and hear something about it, and then that person could bring that up during roundtable. Just a thought.
Any other
I would like to comment on that.
Wait a minute. Before we do that, because I think we can work a process here tonight. Are there any other additions, corrections, or deletions to the text that you see?
Yeah, I think you have.
What did Todd have?
Todd, did you have anything we've missed?
Oh, I'm good.
Oh,
Okay. All right, so I think what we could do is go through this section by section, vote, just a minute, look at the changes that have been proposed.
I think we need a clean copy.
I'm
Well,
proposing a change.
Yeah, he wasn't finished.
Oh, okay. What, yes?
He never was finished. when
Next
it
change.
started.
Okay. Beginning on page 7, Article 9, meetings. Continuing on page 8, I would like to make a motion that under section 3, we include something to add citizen comments to each month's agenda.
All right, so Tom, that was where I was trying to get to. We have a couple of, there's some changes here that I think would be pretty easy to make
There's
and
a
come
motion
back.
on the floor?
Just a minute. There is no motion because the bylaws are not on the floor. They're here on discussion right now. Just let me finish what I'm trying to explain. Because there are some things here that I think there's a definite division of opinion. If we go through these, each section where there's been a proposed change, first of all, I'm trying to figure, do we have to actually, we have to move the approval of the bylaws, at which point you can start making motions to make a change. So basically,
What?
you have a second motion. So you move to approve the bylaws, that puts them on the floor. At that point, going through them, we can say, I move that line 3 says the community sustainability, et cetera, we vote on that first, because you're voting an amendment, basically.
I think we're not ready to vote.
But we can't, now, the problem is, we have things that you can't just print back in here, send out, and vote on these as a whole. There are sections in here that we need to vote on individually.
Okay.
We could do that by moving approval of the bylaws and then moving an amendment for each of these individual changes so that we get majority opinion on each of the individual changes. To try to write this up right now as one consistent document, then you're back to, well, no, I don't want that put in there. So do we put that in? Do we not put it in?
Okay.
Each of those items is going to have to be voted on as an amendment. So if people are willing, can we just have a show of hands? How many people would like to wrap this up tonight with amendments for the individual changes? We about 50-50? All right, so the problem then becomes you cannot get one intact document back to vote on next meeting because there's been no consensus to make all of these individual changes. And I'm not quite sure, I mean, we're going to end up with the same problem because some of them are basically, you're going to then have to vote an amendment, no, I want that removed. even though it was suggested at the previous meeting.
Is there any way that we can go through the document with the suggested changes and one by one, either up or down?
That's what I'm proposing. That's exactly what I just proposed.
But we're not going to vote on the
Oh,
whole.
we're not going to vote on the whole
No,
thing tonight.
you
But you
can't
have to put
amend
it on the floor.
something, you have to put it on the floor. You have to move to approve the bylaws.
And then we remove it.
And then we vote to make the
I
individual
move we
amendments.
approve the bylaws.
Thank you, Faith. All right.
All right,
Now,
Now,
we have to vote.
no, we do not vote.
no, we,
All right.
Oh, that's
one
right.
item
Tom,
discussion.
section 3.
Thank you, Brandon.
Would you please provide your amendment?
It's going to be a while.
Article
So
1,
Article
Section 3.
1, Section 3.
Article 1, Section 3, I believe under
move.
Section 3 mission, I move that it read, "The CIC will consider a broad range of issues affecting the livability, community sustainability," excuse me, comma after livability, "community sustainability, scratch and, comma after sustainability, quality of the city's neighborhoods, comma, and the community as a whole." And that would then be in compliance with what the city's comprehensive plan
I'll second
states.
that.
Okay. Then again, by show of hands, all those in favor of this amendment?
So we can't do that. We can't. do
Wait,
that.
I mean, I know we kind of, we did it with
But
the
not an
putting
official
it, but
motion.
this is an official motion, and so we should probably,
Yeah, if you want to
sorry.
make it official, then you got to vote.
Okay, sorry. Do it the long way,
It's not an official
which I've
motion.
never heard before,
Yes,
but that's
yes.
okay.
So we just have to vote. That's what.
Linda,
We just can't.
I vote for approving Article 1 as corrected.
okay,
changed.
Dennis,
Yes.
Amy,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Joyce,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Rita,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Barbara,
Yes.
Harris,
Aye.
Karen,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
It passes unanimously.
Can we just all shout yes, and you can put our names with it later? Oh.
No, that's, we have in our.
All right, on page 3, Article 3, Section 3. Since I'm not the chair, I can make motions. I move that we amend Section 3 to delete the words "or remaining"
So
from...
moved.
I just made the motion. You want to second it? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we amend Section 3 by removing the words "or remaining."
Which article are you talking about?
Yeah.
Article 3, Section 3.
Top of the page. Page 3.
Oh,
All right, speed reader.
Okay, Linda,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Kathy,
I'm lost.
They want to
Okay, over me, okay, yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Rita,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Harris,
Aye.
Karen,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right, Tom, Section 4, you wanted to add back 2 items.
Correct.
Can you please read those as an amendment?
The two, I'd like to propose an amendment to Article 3, Section 4, to add a Section G, which would state, "to represent community / individual concerns and improvement ideas," as well as an Article H to read, "to transmit information."
Transmit. Okay, so if I'm reading right,
What does that mean?
okay, just hang on. Okay, so G would read to represent community / individual concerns and improvement ideas.
Correct.
Okay, and then H would be to transmit information. So just, is there a second to that motion?
I second.
And is there discussion on that motion?
I don't understand what those mean.
We use communicate instead of transmit.
Yeah, what does that mean?
The roles that we are responsible for as members of this body are to take information back to our neighborhoods, to communicate it to our neighborhoods. I don't care how it's stated, but that's one of our roles. And if we don't have that in our bylaws, then we aren't doing a good job of writing our bylaws. It was in the previous version as I read it, and that's why I was asking that it be put back in, because I thought it was important that we do that.
Okay, any other discussion
I
on
agree
this
it's
item?
important. I don't care for the verbiage.
Rather than transmit, then communicate.
I understand.
And
And we copied it right off the website.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, we need to clean it up, like Tom's other motions that have cleaned it up a little bit. I don't think, I mean, I agree that the intent is there, but I think we need to.
Let me check, let me restate the second part that was previously item I, which would now be
L.
H. Yeah, excuse me, L. To communicate information.
To who, and does that matter?
Well, all of this is going back to our neighborhoods.
I'm trying to recall what our neighborhood bylaws look like. One of the things we were trying to do was narrow this down to just what you are responsible for as a member of this body. And that was, being at the meeting, speaking out, voting, etc. So those were specifically, some of those things were specifically deleted. That was like the most ridiculous laundry list of things I've ever seen.
It's assumed that you're going to report back to your.
And I'm not
Never
sure
assume.
but I'm not sure it needs to be stated, because I think in the selection process in your neighborhood association, that is your responsibility to your neighborhood association. It should be somewhere in your bylaws that your CIC representative reports back and represents the neighborhood association. It's not something that the CIC needs to tell you is your responsibility as a CIC member.
On K, could it read to represent neighborhood association concerns and or improvement ideas rather than community/individual?
I think we have a responsibility to represent the entire community
And how
of
did I
Oregon
just
City.
get back to K? I was seeing G and H. What else did I miss?
Amy, where did you get?
We
K?
stopped.
K is the original.
Okay. We
Whereas-
stopped at F. This would be the new G and H. So
Yeah.
your letters
The
are
old
confusing
K,
me.
which would now be G, says to represent community/individual concerns and improvement ideas.
They've eliminated about 12 items that were done a year ago by a number of people sitting here this evening who worked laboriously to develop the current bylaws. And I think that they put a lot of time and effort into formulating those. And I looked at the 12 or so that have been deleted, and of those, I felt at least 2 of them were necessary to reinsert.
All right, so restating the amendment, it would add back 2 items, the new G, to represent community/individual concerns and improvement ideas, and new H to transmit information.
To communicate information.
To communicate
sorry,
information.
we did clear that up. Okay. So, Katie?
No.
Okay, now I just want to make clear that the motioner and the seconder both agree with those changes.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay. So, Linda,
I agree.
Dennis,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Rita,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, and
Thank you for trimming the long list down some.
it's still shorter, so that's a good thing. And I would say at this point, Faith catching us on leaving the word absences out is actually a textual error. I don't think you really need to vote
vote on it, Tom.
to put the obvious back in, so
The
unless,
unexcused absences per calendar year.
just a minute.
Okay.
So the word absences, unless I hear any dissension, is in that sentence. You just don't see it. It's the invisible word. So now,
calendar year should be
Joyce, you want to propose the amendment for that one?
Okay, I would like to add under the addition of absences per calendar year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Katie, you're on again.
Linda?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Joyce?
Oh.
Faith?
Yes.
Rita?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, so now this one, and oh my goodness, my fourth grade teacher's right, my handwriting's atrocious. So I'm proposing that we add a new A, which will read, an absence will be considered excused if the secretary or another officer of the CIC is notified by 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting that the member will be absent, or in the case of an emergency, if such notice is given in a reasonable time.
I like it.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
All right, is there any discussion on that?
That's a mouthful.
Hearing none, Katie?
Okay, Dennis, or sorry, Linda?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Rita?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Todd? Passes unanimously.
Oh, she's
All right.
getting fast.
She is. You're almost as good as Bill Weisman. All right, so new B will be, it shall be I move that we amend to a new B. It shall be the responsibility of the CIC secretary to notify a representative after the first unexcused absence that member is in danger of losing their membership. Okay, any discussion?
Did we want to carbon copy the chair of the neighborhood association?
With a copy of the notice to the chair?
Yes.
Yes.
Where the officers was brought up earlier, maybe not just the chair.
The other officers, because the
It might
absent
be the
person
chair.
may be the
Okay.
chair.
Yeah, to the
Officers
officers.
of the members'
All
neighborhood
right,
association.
Todd, is that acceptable?
Yes.
All right, I accept it also.
Linda?
I'd
Yes.
like to,
Oh, sorry.
Discussion?
could we have that read again, please?
Hopefully. It shall be the responsibility of the CIC secretary to notify the representative after the first unexcused absence that the representative is in danger of losing their membership. A copy of this notice will be provided to the officers of the neighborhood association.
Good.
Okay.
Of the members' neighborhood association.
Okay.
So the first should be member also, if you're using the word member, like Joyce said, try to use the same word, maybe.
I was trying to drop representative out of here and put member everywhere, so.
Maybe you should read it.
Read it again?
Yeah, we like to hear you read.
It's my lesson. It shall be the responsibility of the CIC secretary to notify a member after the first unexcused absence that the member is in danger of losing, I guess I might as well say his or their membership. A copy of the notice will be provided to the officers of the neighborhood of the members' neighborhood association.
You good with that, Todd? Yes. Okay. Linda?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Amy?
Aye.
Kathy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Rita?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
And I have to say at this point, through the invisible man behind the glass over here, I'm so glad Renee is taping this meeting because I can go back and take better notes when I watch the tape. Thank you, Renee. All right, so new C. The CIC I move an amendment, new C. The CIC secretary will oh, wait a minute, I missed one. The CIC secretary will notify the neighborhood association officers after a second unexcused absence. Well,
After a member's.
after a member's, yes. Okay, that one I wrote really messy. So CIC secretary will notify a member's neighborhood association officers after a second unexcused absence. The CIC secretary will notify, will provide notification of, there we go, will provide notification of a vacated position after a second unexcused absence by a member of the CIC. And that one I will have to watch on the tape.
Who are you notifying?
The members' neighborhood association officers.
Heard that, yeah.
I'll second that.
Should it also go to the member?
I thought initially we had all,
Already told him.
we could do
Told the
both,
member.
but yeah.
Copy the member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like
CC
if
to the
Bob, I
member.
think it should be the
A
same.
copy will be provided to the member.
Former member?
Yeah. Cut him a little slack.
Please don't be gone.
All right, so that.
If you gotta be gone, just let us
I agree.
know.
And Bob
agree with
seconded
you.
that. and
Okay,
he-
so
he
second
agrees with
sentence
the
to
change.
that, a copy of the notice will be provided to the member.
Okay. So Linda,
Yes?
Dennis,
Yes.
Amy,
Aye.
Kathy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Rita, Bob,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Harris,
Yep.
Karen,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Todd.
yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay. All right, so another one that I think is probably textual, Article 4, Section 2, the CIC members will be responsible to provide notification.
Yeah.
Is there any objection to that being a textual change? Okay. All right, and elections.
Harris has a question.
Oh, sorry,
real quick,
Harris.
Sorry.
Were you going to redesignate the existing C under section 5?
It'll move down to new E, but we don't have to vote on that. It just kind of
D&E.
gets bumped.
All right.
All right, page 4, Article 5, elections, Section 1C. Tom has an excellent idea, so would you like to make a motion?
I'm
Or
not
did you
sure.
forget what your excellent idea was? All right, I moved.
Hint, even-numbered years.
I move that we amend this to read, "The nominating committee will present the names of the nominees to the general membership at the general meeting in November of even-numbered years."
Okay.
Is there a second?
Oh, what?
I second it.
Any discussion?
Okay. Linda,
Yes?
Dennis,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yep.
Tom,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Rita,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right, and then Section 2, I move that we amend it to read, "Regular election of officers will be held at the December general meeting in even-numbered years."
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Okay.
Katie?
Linda,
Yes?
Dennis,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yep.
Tom,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Rita,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Harris,
Yep.
Karen,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Oh dear, are we going back to 1A? Section 1A also has that same election year wordage.
I missed that the first time through.
Okay.
Where?
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, proofreader. Going backwards, I would move that we amend Article 5, Section 1, Item A. The nominating committee will be selected at the October general meeting in even-numbered years.
Second.
Who was that, Faith?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Linda,
Yes?
Dennis,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Rita,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Harris,
Yeah.
Karen,
Yes.
Gary,
Yeah.
We're not
Yes.
getting-
Not included.
Todd.
matter.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, Article 5, Section 5. I move that we amend it to read, written ballots will be provided to the members on election night. The ballots will be prepared by the CIC secretary and tallied by 2 randomly selected members of the CIC.
Not running for office.
Not running for office. I didn't finish the sentence. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Kate?
Okay. Linda?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Amy?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Tom?
Yes.
Joyce?
Aye.
Faith?
Yes.
Rita?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Harris?
Yeah.
Karen?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right, now jumping all the way ahead to page 7. Article 9 meetings, section 3, item A will be, I move that we amend it by inserting the words "to the chair." It will now read, "Any person may request to add an item to the agenda by submitting the item in writing to the chair at least 7 days in advance of the meeting." Is there a second?
I second it.
Any discussion? Katie?
Okay. Linda?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Amy?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Joyce?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Rita? Bob?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Harris?
Yep.
Karen?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right, then on page 8, actually, I think the best thing would be to conform the language between A and B. So I move that we amend this to read B, any member of the CIC may request to add an item to the agenda by submitting the item in writing to the chair at least 7 days in advance of the meeting.
A second.
I'm sorry, which one was that? Which article?
B.
Okay, section B. Okay, sorry.
Article 9, section 3, item B.
Any member?
You're combining A and B.
And it
Okay, so
just
that
read
was
like A.
Karen, and then Joyce, you second?
Any discussion?
You're basically combining A and B.
No,
It's the same
because
word.
they're specified.
It's just the same
It's to
word.
make clear, it's any member of the public is free to do it, and any CIC member is free. We wanted to make very clear that
you reread
the
that?
public knows that they're eligible, or they can do that. So it would be any member of the CIC may request to add an item to the agenda by submitting the item in writing to the chair at least 7 days in advance of the meeting.
That's only
That
addressing the members, though.
A
And,
is
and
the
A
public.
is any person.
We just voted on A.
Which is the public. No.
Yeah.
We already voted on
A
this.
is
approved
any
it.
person, B is, which would include us, we're just making it clear that CIC members also have to give 7 days advance notice.
Right.
Yes. And we're making it clear that any member of the public can request an item be added to the agenda with A.
But didn't we discuss that
A is
section
what?
3A, that blah, 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 an item to the agenda by submitting to the chair the item in writing?
Yes.
Same thing with the
and
CIC
B,
member.
And B will now read exactly the same, but it will specify a CIC member.
But we still haven't addressed,
We're not there yet.
We haven't gotten there yet. Slow down.
Any other discussion? Okay. Linda?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Amy?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Tom?
abstain.
And Joyce?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Rita?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Harris?
Yep.
Karen?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Passes with 1 abstention.
All right, so not 100% clear on wording, but let me try something here. So adding to Article 9, Section 3, or no, excuse me, Article 9, let me read down a little bit before I say
First
that. Hang on.
article, I
Read
would.
5.
I'd make a motion, I don't even know if we need to make this motion, but to actually, to put in reports from Public Works and the City Chamber of Commerce and Clackamas Fire District 1, as Brandon requested tonight, to be
Oh.
added in as a regular
That's
item.
true.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion on that?
Linda?
I think,
Oh, sorry.
I think that that's the ideal spot to put in a citizen comment
I think
area.
it would stand alone better, and I'm trying to figure something else out while we vote. Yeah, that was what I was.
It really belongs in that
No,
particular
Tom, look at
place.
section 5.
If you're going to have a standard item on every agenda, those three plus citizen comments are the appropriate place to have it.
Look at section 5. And actually, it's up to the mover. So does the mover want to
No.
include this? All right, so the motion, the amendment as moved is adding Clackamas Fire District number 1 to item C.
Okay. Linda?
Yes?
Yes.
Dennis? Amy?
Aye.
Kathy?
I'm confused. I abstain.
Okay. Tom?
No,
Okay. And Joyce?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Rita?
Yes.
Bob?
No.
And Barbara?
Abstain.
And Harris?
I'm just putting
Yes.
fire district
Karen?
on.
Yes.
Gary?
yes,
Todd? Passes. With 2 abstentions and 2 noes.
Okay, so now, section 5 had been set up giving the criteria for how public comment will occur, but it is specific that it refers to commenting on an item on the agenda.
correct.
It would seem to make better sense if we want to add that there will be an open period for public comment at the beginning of the agenda, that go into that section, and then we also change some of the wording about what you're commenting on if that is approved.
Or we can add it as a D. In section 3, you have
We could
any
do that,
person can
too.
add an item, the CIC member can add an item, what our standing people that we've invited in, and then we could have a D for public comment, if
Okay.
that was something we wanted to add.
So with Tom's permission and approval, I would move an amendment that we add to Article 9, Section 3, Item D.
Section 5.
No, section 3.
No, we went back to
Oh,
3.
you meant back to 3.
So Section 3, add an Item D, that a period for public comment will be included at the beginning of every agenda.
Does someone want to second it before I make a comment?
I mean, every agenda item.
No, at the beginning of every agenda. So it would be a standing item on the agenda.
That way people can be here, voice their thoughts, and don't have to stay till 10 o'clock.
And not only that, the other thing that I'm concerned about is many people don't come to the meetings, but once they do and you tell them you need to come here, not all of them are going to understand this process and feel welcome at this process.
Did somebody second?
Yeah, Harris did.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're
I
not
would
gonna
just.
feel-
Oh, sorry.
They don't, because they don't feel welcome when they go to the city, and
So they come.
the attitude, when they come up, and how they are being paid attention to and listened to.
Right.
I don't understand what you're
Dennis?
saying.
I'm
That-
curious about, does this circumvent the comment cards? And
No, it would become part of that
It's
process.
part of
It's
the
part of the
Yeah.
process.
Okay.
But people just don't.
I don't know that I would want to put it at the beginning of the agenda. I think that if we have presenters, they should have first say.
Actually, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
So-
and I agree with that. But the people in the neighborhoods, not all of them understand the process. They don't. There are people that don't have and are older, do not have computers.
It
So
should
our
at least,
leniency with these people, our patience with these people, would make for better communication for this community.
Okay,
it
so
should
if
probably be ahead of Ask OCP
I
and
was going to
Chamber.
say, if I could restate that motion, that it will appear on the agenda after the guest speakers,
Yes.
would you?
Second.
Okay.
I also have a concern that if you open it up to public comment,
You give them a
you
time
could
limit.
say that there's a big concern in one neighborhood. You could have 30 people come talk about the land use problem that they're having in their neighborhood, and we have to listen to all 30 of them for 3 minutes. Something to think about. You're opening it up for citizen comment, and this really isn't the forum for that type of a thing. If it was, say it was a land use issue, is that your intent?
Inform them of that, because they don't understand.
Well, and it also doesn't have to address anything that the CIC is responsible for.
Right, they could talk about anything.
Public comment means you can walk in and comment on anything for 3 minutes.
That's correct. And it's generally considered to be the responsibility of the chair if there's something presented that is inappropriate after that person is finished and they've had their 3 minutes, to remind the others in the audience that those kinds of discussions are more appropriately handled by Parks and Recreation, Planning Commission, whomever. I think we can do it in a polite way without just telling people, no, we don't want to hear anything from you.
Also
I second that comment.
Also realize when you have public comment, the members do not discuss anything with that. They're just allowed to talk.
That's correct.
So if they bring up something and you have a question, we're not going there. I mean, that's how they do it at City Commission. That's how.
There are times at City Commission where they will request a clarification. And I think we should be entitled to request a clarification of what someone is trying to communicate to us.
Joyce?
I just want to make sure that when you put that public comment in there, that it does apply to the 3 minutes and that they have to fill out the comment cards.
We will continue into Section 5 after this, because there'll have to be some changes if it passes.
Okay.
And could we get that timing light up there on the table for our meetings, if this passes?
No, whatever I was watching from home one day, I think it was the Planning Commission.
They had it right in front.
The chair uses his cell phone, and the sound it makes when the 3 minutes is up sounds like a fire alarm. And I was wondering why everybody wasn't getting up and leaving the room when I was watching the meeting from home on TV.
Well, it's funny, when we first got the Granicus system, did you hear us use it? There's a chiming on this as well, and it sounds like a big gong. Gong.
I like the gong show processor. All right, Linda?
I liked what Joyce had said earlier about the comments, that citizens should have ample opportunity to go through the neighborhoods and just bring discussions there. And then that could be brought up through their own neighborhood association.
Well, and I will kind of repeat something that I'd said earlier, but hopefully with a little more clarity. One of the reasons that we put in the criteria, or put in the ability to add something to the agenda in advance, you notify the chair. If it is one of those issues that could go to someplace else more appropriately, if it's an issue that maybe is better discussed back with your own neighborhood association, at that time the chair can give that feedback to that person. That, this isn't really the body to go to. Here's, you can actually work with the person who has something to say and help them. And I'm going to be honest, and good thing I'm taping Sleepy Hollow, so I'm happy. But we're all volunteers. These meetings can run long. The longest meetings have run long because of overwhelming citizen comment. And that maybe doesn't have to occur. And I'm loving the fact, I think CIC representation is growing again. But for a while, it's time out of your life, at least once a month, to come here and sit at a meeting, and you don't want to be here till 10 or 11 o'clock every night. And if it's something that maybe could be very helpfully handled in advance by turning in an agenda item, it will cut down the amount of time that we're here in the meeting. Any other discussion? Whoops. I'm running the show.
I know, right?
Now. Hit me. Rita?
Isn't that the purpose of the 7-day advance notice? Because that could possibly be handled just by a comment to the person that this is really appropriate for us. It should be Parks and Rec, or it should be. So I think.
And that was our thinking when we wrote it this way.
I can understand where you're coming from, but the average citizen who comes to this meeting, whose only their neighborhood meets on a quarterly basis or 3 times a year, they don't know who the chair of this CIC is. And even I, as a member, have had one experience that was very disheartening, because I, at the time, approached the entire committee, the chair, the co-chair, and the secretary, with an item asking that it be placed on the agenda, and it took 6 months and 2 reminders from me that I wanted that item discussed. They simply refused to discuss it because it was being cloistered or held back by those people who should have been in a leadership position. I think we owe it to our complete entire community to welcome their comments and participation in our meetings.
And I understand what you're saying, but I also don't believe it's the average citizen that's going to come and speak for 3 minutes. I have no problem listening and talking to people. I think that's great. I think that's why we're here, is to be open, but I'm going to respectfully disagree with you on that point. I don't think that opening up to public comment is I don't feel those are the people that are going to come.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
Linda has, or actually we have a comment card from Mike Mitchell.
And even though we haven't approved the process yet, we'll let him talk.
It's in our current bylaws, it doesn't matter.
Current bylaws?
Yes.
So I'm operating under the current bylaws.
Yes, you are.
Mike Mitchell, I'm an Oregon City resident, and I happen to be a member of the Caulfield Neighborhood Association. We don't have a representative.
No.
So I have no way of getting anything before this body. The other thing I would say is, even if I do have a representative, and I can go to the chair 7 days ahead, or I can go to my neighborhood association, you've now put a gatekeeper between me and this committee. Exactly. And you're leaving it up to the chair, or you're leaving it up to my neighborhood association whether or not they bring my legitimate concern to this body. That doesn't seem like a public process to me, where you're putting a gatekeeper in there that decides whether or not I get to get heard, because they can decide whether or not to put that item on the agenda. The other thing I would just say, where did I turn the page? I don't see how you can, in your bylaws, Section 2, Item C, say we'll provide a vehicle for maximum citizen participation and not allow public comment on items not on your agenda.
Can I ask you a question, Mike?
Those two don't add together. Sure.
What type of a comment would you make at a public meeting? And this is a legit question. Please don't shake your head, Mike. What kind of other mic? Sorry.
Oh, okay. Which mic are we talking
What
about?
kind of a comment? I'm truly interested. What type of a comment would you bring to the CIC that would need to be discussed that would need to be heard here, that wouldn't be put on an agenda?
Anything relative to Caulfield.
I'm asking Mike a question.
I think behind your question is an assumption that every neighborhood in the association in the city operates the way you would like it to and has their meetings on a more frequent schedule than they do.
No.
If I have to wait for the next Caulfield Association meeting and then hope that my representative is here to get it on the agenda, I'm not sitting here thinking of something that I would have to bring before the group.
Well, I'm truly curious. I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm truly curious.
Haven't thought about it. I'll be honest. I'm shocked that public comment on items not on the agenda is not a part of your agenda. It is for every other city committee. Right. And this isn't any different than any other one. Right. I'm on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. We all represent members of the city who can bring anything to me that they want to, but they also can bring it to a PRAC meeting if it's not on our agenda. Mm-hmm. I'm shocked that it isn't on this group's agenda. So did I think up a list of questions I would ask?
No, I'm just really curious.
A list of things that I would need to bring to this group? No, haven't thought about it. I just think you've got a gaping hole in your process if what you really are supposed to be all about is maximum citizen participation, and you don't allow citizens to bring items directly to you.
Okay, item A on here specifically allows for that. We have said that anyone can request that an item be put on the agenda. We're not saying you have to go anyplace else. It doesn't say it has to be your CIC rep. Any person can contact the chair to request that an item be added to the agenda.
And request. That doesn't mean it's going to get on the agenda. I still can't speak if the chair chooses not to put it on the agenda. A request is different than anybody being able to add an item to the agenda. If you want the 7 days notice, say any citizen can add an item to the agenda, not request it of the chair. The chair can say no.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
And please tell Larry, I mean, I've been in contact with Larry trying to get representatives. We're all good. We're all good. Yeah.
Does every neighborhood association have monthly steering committee meetings?
No. And Mike, just for information, I come from the Gaffney Lane. We meet quarterly, and
We meet quarterly too, but we meet.
we
the
don't
steering
have
committee meets
we don't have a
every
steering
month.
committee.
Oh.
I'd love it if we did, but
Yeah.
I just-
But
our neighborhood we can't get that much participation.
but again, we
Yeah,
did
it's hard to get.
Yeah.
we did open it up so that any individual could contact the chair with an agenda item. So that's in there. All right. Any further?
Yeah, I'm on that board. Can I go ahead and ask? Is there some way, though, then we can have it so that people can find who the chair is for the CIC?
My question to Tom would be, if you know when and where the meeting is, how do you not know who the chair is? You'd have to look
Because
on
I
the
can go
internet.
to the city calendar and see every meeting that exists in the city.
And
It says absolutely nothing about who the chair for that meeting is.
But you're already on the computer and can look.
And I don't
up
know how to
CIC.
navigate through the
Okay.
city website.
And not only that,
I do
I'm
know
on
how to pull up the
dial-up.
calendar.
That's it, I'm on dial-up. I can't get into things because it is not that savvy, my computer.
Okay, because my assumption would be if you can get that far, you could figure out who the chair is. But
Not everybody has those
You know,
abilities.
I called once because I was having trouble and talked to Katie, and she walked me through what I needed to do to find it. So
If you want to pay
hopefully
more
you-
than a dial-up, you can do it for me.
okay, I will accept the possibility that you can find the meeting and not know who the chair is or how to
Yeah.
contact said chair. All right, so any further discussion? All right, so we are moving.
Wait, so we have a motion on the floor and a
I was
second.
going to try to restate it.
Okay, okay.
All right, so we are moving to amend the bylaws by adding to Article 9, Section 3, new item D, an open public comment period will be placed on the agenda after the guest speakers will be placed on the agenda at every meeting after the guest speakers.
I think it should be citizen comments, shouldn't it be? Open
Citizen
agenda.
public.
Citizen comments.
I was just going to mention that on Section 5, it specifically says public comments. I don't know if you don't want to have to reword that section, you might continue to have it say like
Yeah,
citizen or
I would-
public comment. I don't know.
All right, I'm going to state it as public comments. Leave it at public comments.
Do you second that
Second.
change? Okay. So, Linda?
No.
No. And Dennis?
Yes.
And Amy?
No.
Kathy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Joyce?
No.
Faith?
No.
Rita?
Yes.
Kurt? Oh, sorry, no. Vaughn? Sorry.
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Harris?
Yeah.
Karen?
No.
Gary?
I don't think we're there yet. No.
Todd?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm going to have to count this one up because I did.
Actually, a real vote.
8 to 6. So what's 2/3 of 2/3?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And 1, 2, 3, 4,
14. There's 16 actually
6,
seated.
7, 8. Oh, I got 8 yeses and 6 nos. So it passes.
Hang on
Actually-
1 second. Yes, it does.
Is that enough?
Yep.
Okay.
Take 6. We're doing some rapid math over here because we have this odd thing that a amendment takes 2/3 of 2/3 of the membership. So, okay. So then,
Is it possible to make a motion to table that particular section and kind of come back and visit it later? And
No.
I think some of us agree that that's what we want, but we don't have the wording right yet.
It's already passed, but we're always free to revise the bylaws later if we're not happy with the way it's working. So now under section 5, I would propose an amendment. So section 5 will read, public comments, the following guidelines, I move an amendment. Section 5, public comments, the following guidelines are given for citizens making public comments or commenting on items on the agenda.
Because we've added in a public comments, it still would be an agenda item. So I don't know if we really need to change anything.
Oh, no, you're right.
We'll
Withdrawn.
save that stuff.
Never mind.
When we don't, oh, and look at that, no more notes. So, the original, Joyce?
Eagle Eye over here caught us on something. Just need clarification back on page 4, under elections. Section 5 says we will have written ballots that are tallied by 2 randomly selected CIC members, where section 6 says we will not have any secret ballots.
They're not secret. That's the key. They have to be,
They're tallied and reported.
right.
They're recorded.
They're written, recorded. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not secret.
And we do those so that everybody else isn't hearing how we're voting as it's taking, okay, I got it. Good.
Okay, so now, having gotten slightly lost,
Can we also, I'd like to just discuss for just a second the form that we are.
oh, yes. Well, actually, that's not part of this, so let's finish this.
Yeah, it is. We said it's an approving form.
You don't really have to adopt the form. We'd have to adopt the bylaws and then adopt the form. It's not part of adopting the bylaws.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm lost. Who made the original motion?
Faith had made the original motion and Rita had seconded it.
Thank you very much for taking wonderful notes. Rita, Faith, would
So,
you be
yeah.
willing to move the bylaws as
I move
amended?
we adopt the bylaws as amended.
And you second that still, Rita?
Yes.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Okay. Linda?
Well,
Oh,
I
sorry.
think I would like to make a comment. I would feel more comfortable if we could see another written bylaws with the amendments before we vote on
You've
the
just
approval of the
I
bylaws.
agree with that.
I agree.
You know, we're
Right.
seeing scribbled notes, trying to hear what's being said. I'd like to physically see so that
Okay.
it's done right and we don't have to come back and change everything.
Yeah, it's not an emergency action or anything.
No.
The only request would be this time around, please, when you get the amended bylaws, if you have anything to change, add, etc., you email it to Amy in advance. A lot of this tonight could have been in printed form if everyone had actually sent it in to Amy in advance.
That depends upon when we receive it.
We
I
will
can't
see to
expect to receive it 2 days before the meeting, and I have a lot of other things on my calendar, doctor's appointments, et cetera, things to which I have committed, and to go through a 9-page document to make sure that it reads the way we tonight have decided that it should read. I don't think giving us 2 days' notice to go through that and notify the chair is an appropriate thing.
Didn't
I
we
think-
send that out a lot sooner?
I got mine about a week before.
No, I didn't.
All right, note taken, and we will get it out as quickly as possible, and if at all humanly possible, please, because you all have been part of the discussion tonight, please give Amy advance notice of anything that you find that you feel either is wrong, like we heard it wrong, or on second thought, gee, you wish you'd ask that this or that be changed, because this can go through further amendments. And no, it's not life or death crisis. I just love to end things.
Okay, we still have a motion and a second on the floor, so we do need to vote on that unless someone wants to withdraw their
Or
motion.
somebody can vote that we table the motion.
Or yes, that too.
I assume.
Is there a motion to table this
So
motion?
make that motion.
Second.
Okay, and then we need to vote on that. So, Linda,
Yes, table the motion.
Dennis,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Rita,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Harris,
Yep.
Karen,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Todd. Okay, that passes.
Next month, maybe we have to move to take it off the table.
Unfinished business. Oh,
Some of the Bethel girls that I used to teach parliamentary procedure to would be appalled at me tonight.
Sorry, I had to find my agenda again.
Amy's back in charge.
Okay. Whew. New business, election of officers. Turn the time to Tom.
It's somewhat difficult to follow procedure because we've really not heard from Mr. Summer as to whether or not he wishes to continue as secretary. Therefore, I'd like some guidance from the committee members as to, we do need to vote tonight. We have a candidate who has agreed to serve once again as chair, and that would be Amy. We have two individuals who have offered to serve as vice chairs. Karen, who's been in charge of vice.
Very efficient.
And Tony, who thinks he can be a good vice. But we don't have a definite candidate as a secretary. We have a default, in fact, someone who has 2 meetings in a row been our secretary because of default. So I would ask, Barbara, are you willing to serve as secretary and be nominated?
The problem is, that can I be here every time? You know, and who will do it if I'm not here? And I know we're going to be gone in the spring.
I think that's a standard problem with secretary, though, and just to brighten your life, we can take nominations from the floor tonight. I nominate Barbara Rankin for secretary.
Second.
Are there any other nominations from the floor?
Boy, she got roped in on that one.
She started it.
And I would suggest the secretary asks the vice chair to take minutes if they're going to be gone.
Oh, we've now seen her handwriting. We'll see how good I do on watching video. Or Tony. Or it could be Tony. Tony could do it.
And I presume Katie has some printed ballots.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm looking at our current bylaws online, and our current bylaws state that both the CIC liaison and one other city staff member will tally the votes tonight. And I apologize because John has gone home for the evening. So I don't know what the body would like to do, if they would like just me to tally those or how they want to handle this. I'm bringing it to you.
I would trust Tom to help you count.
You trust me? You need your head screwed on.
I don't know about the rest of the body, but I trust him.
He's the chair of the nominating committee, right?
Right.
I think it would be appropriate.
Very
I
appropriate.
agree.
I agree.
So can we just take that this is consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there any objections? Okay. Then I do have written ballots to pass out in that case.
What names do you have on those?
We have to write in the one.
We have you down as secretary. I believe she said.
We can write in, is that correct?
Yes, she did this meeting.
So we can write in KATT.
Yeah.
You can write in anyone you want. So you can write in Katie for secretary.
That sounds good, Katie. Are you happy?
Oh, you already have her name.
Unfortunately, she's not a member.
I do have to say, though, that her ability to mind
There's not
read is
even a place to
wonderful since
check
Barbara's
for her.
printed on the ballot.
Well, I believe she said she would.
Renee's going to hitting my mic.
Thank you for not making us write in her name.
The incumbent secretary.
There's a groundswell.
Oh, you made yours a secret ballot.
Oh, yeah, it's not, here.
Yep.
Yeah, hold on, so you didn't see it. I'm sorry. I made it secret.
I asked for a recount.
It's written, not secret.
I would like a spreadsheet posted online of those who are illegible.
Is there any votes that are still out?
Count and make sure.
All right, we're going to start roundtable while the non-secret ballots are being tallied.
Did Bob get his in?
Yes, he did.
We could have switched it.
And we're going to start down with Todd.
I have nothing new, except
Well, can you grab the mic?
I just put an A next to it.
So Tower Vista, nothing new.
chair,
Our,
vice
unfortunately,
chair,
our
secretary, and then any
elected
appointments,
chair
and then mark
declined the
what it's
position
for,
because of a work shift
and just put an X there.
change. So we're just down to one representative again.
Oh.
We managed to have enough money this month that we sent a real letter out again to our members. And I would suggest that if you have a neighborhood treasury, if there isn't enough money to do that, I think if we want to gain membership, we have to have more than a little card, because I don't think we really make it clear, maybe I'm wrong, that this is your neighborhood. It's everybody that lives here. And I think it's real important that, I mean, as I've said before at this meeting, I love the city and I love the way people participate, but we have an awful lot of new people that may not know how we want them to be part of the community. So anyway, that's Rita's suggestion, not from...
Rita, was that a one-page letter that you sent out?
Well, it was a trifold.
I was just going to ask maybe that, I mean, I would like to see it. I don't know if any other
I'll
would.
have Denise email it.
Okay, because maybe that would give us an idea of
Yeah.
something. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Could you email it to everybody?
No, it was mailed as a fold with an address.
Yeah, if you get that, then I could
Yeah,
send it out.
I'll have Denise send it to you.
Okay.
And another thing that's happening with our neighborhood association is we're very concerned about the city's noise ordinances not helping when there's a complaint. And so there's been a meeting with the police department and other city staff. So, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that if we do get some changes made. And then, well, we're still working with the library expansion. We've got to make sure every nail 2x4s in the way they say it's going to be, I guess. No, just really, we've been very happy with how they have met with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda?
The Kenema neighborhood met in November for our regular meeting, and one of the items we took was the your CIC grievance, that we brought that to our neighborhood. We discussed that, we went over that, and one of the items that had been on there from the CIC was to perhaps have another grievance committee in the neighborhood. So we voted if we wanted the Kenema neighborhood to have a grievance committee or not, and the vote was 17-1 not to have another grievance committee.
So they're done.
We had a very good meeting in November, to echo Linda, and we had a number of items. One of the items that I'm really kind of excited about is the reclaiming the cemetery, the Pioneer Cemetery, and getting the community as a whole more engaged in that, and not to fall on the shoulders of one individual in our neighborhood, which has happened to be the case in the last few years. And there's been some, we're making some signs, and we're putting forth an effort to bring everybody into that concern, and I think it's going to be better in the next year when we take on that cemetery. I mean, in terms of cleaning it up, preparing it, and helping people find their loved ones. There's a number of people that are buried up on the hill. It's really quite historic, and it belongs to our district, and I think we can get back to like paying more attention to it, and I think it'll look very good for Kenema in the next year.
South End neighborhood, John Williams and his wife have been doing the cleanup on the section of South End Road down the county part from the top of the hill to the bottom. And he asked if the neighborhood association would be able to take that on. So in January, we're going to start as an association. We're doing the cleanup on, down past the waterfalls and the bottom of the hill. So if it looks dirty, then you can come back to the CIC and complain about it, that we're not doing our job. Also, in our steering committee, we talked a lot about, and I think, is it Rita? What you guys do? I think educating the members of our associations and within the city about local things and about how we function. I think that's going to be I think that's huge. That we need to just educate the people how things happen. And another thing, the concern that Rita brought up to this meeting, if we do bring concerns, do they move on? Like, they're talking about the noise ordinance. Is there an avenue for that? Say the committee or the members bring up a concern, like in ours, one of the meetings they were talking about and John was there, about the sidewalks. Do we as a committee then, if something comes up and we bring it here, do we have an avenue to get it back to wherever it should go to maybe be helped with, like Parks and Recreation or?
On that particular issue, there's actually a couple of avenues, but in regards to noise, our noise ordinances are handled by code enforcement. And so does John or from this meeting, is there someone that hears that and takes it to the appropriate place, say, hey, we're not following up and we're not getting that? The neighborhood should take that initiative on their own. The other access is on the city's website. If you encounter a pothole or a tree limb hanging over a sidewalk or anything that you think needs attention by the city, there's a particular area there that is monitored quite closely by the city manager. A report structure is in place. I'm trying to recall what it's called.
It's called OC Request.
OC Request. It's on the website. You fill out your concern. You can choose the correct department if you know it. If you don't know it, the system automatically will look at the context and forward it to the proper department head. They then have a limited amount of time in which to respond to taking care of that issue, and they will get back to you that they have done so. It works very, very well. I've used it a number of times for different things that I spot out there in the city. There was recently a sign that with the windy conditions we had, the Dead Man's Curve on South End Road, the sign got blown parallel to the roadway. So it didn't tell you that you'd better slow down to 25 mile an hour before you hit that curve.
Flying off the curve.
It got taken care of. Boom, like that. Same thing, potholes, dogs barking. I don't care what it is. If you go to OC request on the website and fill it out.
And that would be an education thing that we could
Bring up,
I'll bet
if you have a
there's not
computer
very
at
many
your
people
meeting.
in the city that knows that.
Yeah, we've taken at
type
our
of
meetings, and
information.
I bring a computer occasionally, and I will show them where on their website
Good idea.
you can get to that. I'll show them at the bottom of the website, this is where you contact the various department heads. They all have their phone numbers at the bottom of the site.
Put me up too.
I just wanted to add, there's also a smartphone app
Yes.
for it, and it's really cool because you use your phone and actually take a picture of what it is and add it to the request. And I've used it too, and they have really fast service. They're really great.
So there's an app for that.
There is an app for that.
One thing too, to answer your question, I think that's if something comes up at a neighborhood meeting that you don't have the answer to, or you're not quite sure which avenue, that's a great thing at Roundtable to ask, just like this, to ask, and then someone could say, oh, that should go to the TAC, or, I mean, I found out lots of things sitting right here of the best avenue, so that's a great tool.
Thanks.
Right there. Karen, you had a
Well,
comment.
it's kind of I guess, a two-way echo here. I have the app, and I'll tell you, you get really fast work on a pothole when you get a good picture of a pothole. Sometimes it's a little hard to get it to pose just right, but I've seen very good response.
25 miles an hour.
Yes.
213's a problem.
And all right, so I'll stand in the middle of Tumwater Drive photographing a pothole. I don't think I'll stand in the middle of 213, no matter how much Tom would like me to do that. But the other half of the response, Rita was, I think, informing us that her neighborhood association is doing the right thing. They're working with the department that can solve the problem. If something came up in a neighborhood and they tried to work with the right person's department, whatever, and didn't feel they were getting a satisfactory answer, I would think if that was actually brought here as a concern, then it becomes, Amy's job or the elected officers of this body to maybe contact that department and say, hey, they don't feel like they're getting a good answer. So it wouldn't just come here and plop on the table and we'd say, oh, so sorry, take it back to your neighborhood. There is actually
And that's something I
follow
would
through here.
That's what I was wondering.
I would ask citizens and those of us here, if you bring something up that you're looking, have an idea of what you're asking the CIC for. So if you had, and you said, Rita said, we're working on this noise ordinance, we've and we've hit the brick wall, and then I'm asking the CIC to perhaps send a letter, or what can we do to help? Make sure you're not just complaining that there's something. I mean, you might not know the answer of what to do to help, but
That's the beauty of OC request, is that management is monitoring response time and response. And so if the head of the department is not appropriately responding to your need, the city manager will be aware of it.
Kathy?
My main thing is Thursday night, December 4th. All right, Karen. You said you already have it on your app. At 5:30, the doors open at Abernathy Center. Phyllis Stocking, this is their big fundraiser. We have 10 restaurants coming. We have auction items, raffle items. I'm picking up a beautiful cake from Safeway that they have donated to us. It's chocolate inside, white on the outside, and it's going to have poinsettias, pictures on top. And it's big, double layer, round.
Can I comment on the socks? Because I took one from the credit union, and I went to Dollar Tree, and I spent $16. I got hat, gloves, hand lotion, socks. I mean, and it was chock full. And one of the things I put in was a notepad and 3 pens. I thought, that might be just something that somebody wants to have. And so I had fun. I didn't spend a lot and felt really good because it was chock full.
Well, I can tell you a sad story. Friday, I went with the chairperson, Willie, and we went. I asked her if she was going to work.
Kathy, sorry. Make it quick.
Okay, but we went shopping to get $600 worth of items because we don't always get enough stuff coming in. We bought Fred Meyer out of shampoo, but Willie Smart, she has one of these things telling about our charity to the clerk, because we've got a basket. I think we bought 102 shampoos, but we got them 89, 71, and 75 cents. The lady behind us saw what we did by seeing this, because that's what she gave to the, and she almost started crying because she had been a recipient, recipient. It made us, emotionally. And I can guarantee last year, the wheelchair bags I make when we give to seniors, I saw somebody with one of them I made because I saw it and I thought, oh God, I remember that. And I wish I'd had my sewing machine so I could repair it. The bag is great. She must have had it for 3 years. And the cording needs sewing. But if I knew where she was, I would take my sewing machine and sew it. They appreciate it. They use that stuff. And there's a lot of stories out there.
Tom, do you guys have it tallied, Katie? If you want to read the results, then we'll let.
The election results are as follows. For chair, Amy Wilhite. For vice chair, Karen Morey. For secretary, we're going to have a revote. There was a tie between Barbara Rankin and Katie. Oh, I misread it. Actually, it's for Barbara.
It was a squeaker.
It was a Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie, are you going to make an announcement about the 17th?
Go for it.
Well, I was going to let Tom do his round. Did you need to come back to your notes to do your roundtable?
Well, maybe I'm stepping on Karen's toes. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. You might be.
Well, I was looking
No,
at
you said 17th?
Yeah.
No, I'm not then. I just wanted to remind everyone that this Thursday, the Friends of the Library annual luncheon is being held. All are invited. It's over at the, help me, Todd, where do you guys meet?
Ainsworth.
Ainsworth House, starting at 11:30. It's a wonderful event. It's a major fundraiser. They have some raffles. You can participate in some wonderful gifts, a lot of homemade craft items. Also, I believe that the architect for the new library is going to be doing a presentation that same day. So just want to make sure you're invited.
What's the time on that?
11:30.
Begins at 11:30
11:30.
at the Ainsworth.
And then you can come to dinner at Phyllis Stocking.
Karen, be really well fed that day. Well, I was trying to double check myself on the time. 5.
Begin. Oh, are you going to say what it is, and then I'll tell you the time?
All right. So Wednesday, December 17th, before the City Commission meeting, beginning at 5:30.
5 o'clock.
Beginning at 5 o'clock here in the chambers, will be an appreciation for the outgoing elected officials. So Mayor Doug Neely, Commissioner Betty Mumm, and Commissioner Kathy Roth. Also, as a part of that ceremony, the library is going to be extending their appreciation to everyone who's stuck in there, worked with them, helped out, and you name it, and they will be appreciating all the citizens of Oregon City for the progress that we've made so far on the library. So come thank our elected officials for the service that they've given to us, and let the library thank you.
So it's actually going to run from 5 o'clock to 6:30. At 5:30 is when they're going to do the special library celebration, and then at 6 o'clock is when they're going to do the special recognition of the outgoing mayor and city commissioners.
And the rest I defer to Harris.
Gaffney Lane did not have a meeting, but I did have some things I just wanted to remind you. Next month, I believe in January, a lot of us that meet quarterly will be meeting. So if you will please send your information to Barbara to get onto the back of the agenda. And just to clarify, the back of the agenda, we thought it would be a good idea to just have calendar items. It's not, you don't have to put what, the stuff you're going to discuss at roundtable, but just calendar items, so that, because it's hard while we're up here tonight sometimes to remember to get everything written down. So it's great if we can have that ahead of time and refer to that. Also, just a reminder to a lot of the neighborhoods that Chiefs Advisory Group, they meet every month from September to May, I think is what it is. You can verify that on the Oregon City Police website. But they do ask for a representative from every neighborhood association to be there. And so it's a great thing. The chief of police especially just sits down and lays it out, and this is what it is. So it's a great time when you have individual questions for the chief or to find out what's going on in the city, even above what your liaison might tell you at your meetings. And one of the things he did say was that he was working with McLaughlin because currently Oregon City does not have a noise ordinance. So they have, and I thought that was and everybody found that very interesting that there is no official. They're trying to get one adopted. So
Don't we meet every other month?
Every other month, is it?
I think it is.
Like I said, go to the.
It says the meetings are held every other month.
Every other month.
Between September and May on the third Tuesday of the month.
Oh, that's right.
At 6 p.m. So January, March, May, September, and November. And they're held at the police department.
January. Did you say January?
I said January, March,
Oh, sorry.
May, September, and November.
Okay. Yeah. I know it's the same night as the TAC, but it doesn't have to be the chair. It can be anybody from the neighborhood. And they have representatives there also from the school district. There's a religious representative representing all the religious, faith-based, is that what it's called? Yeah. So there's lots of different, the housing authority, yeah. So I thought that, just a thing to remind in your neighborhoods that send somebody to that meeting. Okay.
Okay, Park Place doesn't have any meetings in December. Last month I was elected chair of the Transportation Advisory Committee, and I didn't have to buy any signs, and I didn't have to buy any flyers, and I didn't have to stand on any street corners. So it was a lot easier. So I really encourage any neighborhoods, if they do have transportation concerns or issues, to come to the TAC, because it's a very, very active committee. We get things done. We don't have to get permission from the city commission to do a lot of the things that we do.
Hey, Katie?
I don't have anything. Thanks.
Harris?
Rivercrest had their general meeting in November, on November 20th, and we had really a good turnout. Speaking of the mailings, we use a half a sheet. I don't know what that's called, but that's what it is, half sheet, right? And, and it's in orange. And it's, everybody in my house notices it. So, and I think it's more useful than just a single postcard, right? It just, as far as its size goes, right? But the real thing is to get the people to actually read the notice and then to have them interested in coming to the meeting. But we had a pretty good turnout, but we also had, the chief there, and Maureen also came and discussed the library. So it was a couple of issues because of the Mount Pleasant and the police department, buying that from the city. That's an issue, of course, that interests everybody there in our neighborhood. But I think it was 17 people, which is not many, but it's a lot more than just the officers. So.
Faith?
We didn't meet last month because it's supposed to be the first Tuesday that the steering committee meets, and that was election day, so we were all busy that day. So the steering committee is going to meet tomorrow night, and we'll discuss our program at Mazatlan, if anyone wants to join us, at 6:30, and we'll discuss our agenda for the January general meeting.
Joyce?
That Mazatlan meeting is buy your own meal, but everybody is welcome to come. I came tonight hoping to get an idea of who to invite for a guest speaker for our January meeting, and I didn't get a lot of ideas from you, so I guess our committee's going to have to put our heads together and think about that.
When you figure that out, will you let me know so I can?
Okay, I will let you know, because we
Do my
have had
agenda.
TriMet, and we have had the library, we've had, a lot of things going on in the city. Just as an aside, the OC request works really well for illegal dumping. Just take pictures of it, send it to OC request, and they'll have somebody there finding out who dumped the stuff and make sure it gets cleaned up. So not just for potholes anymore. PrAC is meeting this Thursday night, and so I'm sorry that I'm going to miss the Fill a Stocking, Fill a Heart, but the PrAC meeting for you guys doesn't start till 7 o'clock, so go down there and then come here. Lots of things going on in PrAC, so if you're interested in the parks in your neighborhood, let me know. You can always contact me if you have some concerns, or come to our meeting. This is a special meeting. We combined our November and December meetings, and that's why it's on a different night than usual. But it is this Thursday night. So the 2 new parks, we've had our 3 master planning meetings for those, and those went really well. And so look for those on the city's website. And I think that's all that. Oh, Hillendale does have a couple of land use things going on. And so we've been working really hard with the neighbors that are right in those areas. It's about some streets that the city has vacated, and the neighbors wanting to use that particular land for some other purpose. And so working with the city on how to resolve that situation, because that's what the CIC was formed for, was for land use issues. Also, as a land use issue, I don't know if they've signed it yet, but Metro is still buying a piece of property that is in the Hillendale neighborhood that's going to be the new entrance, another entrance to Newell Creek Canyon. So that's our neighborhood.
Okay, Barbara.
We had a meeting in November, the Park Place neighborhood, and we agreed to contribute some money from our treasury to the Lions Club to support the vision screening program in the public schools. And we helped, I don't know how many, hundreds of kids screening, thousands really. I've worked on that program. We are still working on the bylaws. Stephen Heverbeek is going to send the final adopted version to Katie as soon as he gets it done. That's it.
There's a speaker for us, Lions Club.
Yeah.
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else that